Still good.
1 second.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Do it this week.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, please, note the following. Beginning October. All right. Beginning October 26th, 2023, all planning board meetings will be held in person in the meeting hall on the second floor of the Bernardsville Municipal Building at 166 Brook Road. Meetings will be live streamed on YouTube with no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to offer comments and or ask questions will be required to attend meetings in person. YouTube live stream access for all meetings is on YouTube, Bernardsville Borough Streams. This link will also be available in the agenda for each meeting, which is posted on the Borough website, which is bernardsvilleborough.org, and on the Borough Hall public bulletin board at least 48 hours prior to meetings. Notice of these changes has also been emailed to the Bernardsville News and Current News by posting a copy on the Borough website and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. All on October 5th. It is the intention of the board not to continue any matter past 11 p.m. at any regular or special meeting of the board unless a motion is passed by the members then present to extend to a later specified cutoff time, and same shall be announced at the opening of each meeting. In addition, the board does not intend to begin a new hearing after 10 p.m. nor begin a testimony of a new witness after 10:30 p.m. Any hearing conducted by the board is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision. The quorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call.
Mayor Knowles? Here. Ms. Gardner? Is absent. Mr. Graham?
Here.
Mr. Horowitz?
Yeah.
Ms. Kellogg? Here. Mr. McMillan is no longer on the board. Mr. McKee?
Here.
Mr. Otto? Is absent. And Mr. Simoff?
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, meeting minutes from October 12th.
I had one comment on the meeting minutes on page 3, the 5th bullet point. In the first line, detached accessory dwelling, it says
Oh,
unit, but
it's
it should be unit.
Thank you.
Other than that, great job.
Well, thank you.
On a prior page, on yeah, prior page,
Page 2.
page 2, the small one, the paragraph in the beginning, Mayor Knowles communicated. The word apartment is spelled wrong. Second line.
Wait a minute, where?
It's a paragraph into the bullet points.
Oh, so that's the same page then, page 3.
That's page 3.
Hold on. Oh, yes, Mayor Knowles communicated.
Have a cottage or apartments with the key missing from that. But more
Oh, yeah.
more substantive, I was not at the meeting, but the paragraph that follows that seems to me to be garbage, and I do not understand it. I wonder if it's- Was the word prior work, that's what the prior ordinance is not inconsistent? Prior-
Yes, that was supposed to be, I'm sorry, ordinance. Thank you.
Take a motion to accept the minutes as noted.
I'll make that motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain on the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, three communications, both related to 1981 detached accessory dwellings. At this time, are there any visitors here that wish to comment or say anything on some topic that's not on the agenda tonight? See none, and there's none, yeah, they can't ask on the screen, so that's easier. No old business, correct? So we have new business, which consists of, it's a consistency review for the 2023-1981 ordinance, and Chad, you asked to be able to make a comment.
Yeah, so we discussed this at council Monday night, and Mayor, please feel free to provide some color here, actually quite extensively. Understanding that this ordinance is oriented from a couple committees and taken a bunch of different twists and turns. At this point, the council did not wish to revise the ordinance in a way that allows new accessory dwelling units to be built for the purposes of rental. And the way that it was read, we believe that the current ordinance did. What the council asked me to do is to come back to the planning board and ask this group, is there anything that can be done to the language to improve it? So that way, you can have greater safety for those that have them in existence, without, in a broad sweeping way, allowing these properties to be used for multi-family purposes. Anything you wanted to add to that, Mary Jane?
No, I think when we originally started, I think in the housing committee was simply the request, because people have these, they are existing in the 10-acre zone. People are renting them, but technically it's illegal because the ordinance says they're only for family members or caretakers. So we were trying to open that up and allow people to rent them, and it just
The issue was, our original proposal back to council and hence the planning board was that the original, the way we started talking about it, and leave that as is, but say that for the accessory buildings that were already in existence, they could rent those out. You couldn't build a new one, but you could rent out an existing one, because times have changed and it won't be used for anything. And that was our preferred position. Then Jack Pigeon advised us that that was probably in violation of land law. And we came back, and I was looking at this morning, and he came back with 4 suggestions, which I'm not going to rattle off, and the committee did not make a recommendation as to any of those. So, and then I went to council, and I think council at one point thought, okay, we'll open it up, and now they're stepping towards something.
This is what seems to be the ordinance of the unintended circumstance or consequence, right?
Yeah.
John, I don't know if you had any opinion on this and how this ordinance can become better, without making it broader than it used to be.
I see the conundrum and the dilemma, because you are creating non-conformities and trying to make them conform, and so it's a sticky situation. I have to really take a hard look. I just got the ordinance revised the other day. Generally speaking, you have to treat properties the same way. That's really the bottom line. And you cannot discriminate along family lines. We know that's the law. If the intent is just to legalize units that are being rented and then try to limit them elsewhere, it's going to be difficult. Because the land use law is very clear in terms of the application zoning across the board. There has to be consistency. You have to treat properties the same way.
Yeah, except you're the opportunity to do the following. You reaffirm the ordinance that says it's not allowed.
Okay.
So you look at that crystal clear, there's no gaps here. Then what you do is you create another ordinance that says anything grandfathered. Anything that exists can be grandfathered, can be addressed with a grandfathering situation. You say, well, okay, we understand they exist.
Yeah.
And here's the ordinance that says if you have this grandfather, essentially, you do now have to register it.
That's what we proposed to Jack.
Yeah.
Jack said
That's where we
did
got stuck, yeah.
I
We said we couldn't,
would disagree.
John, do you have an opinion on that?
or.
Is that- So, what the chairman was saying was pass the ordinance as is and pass a second ordinance which governs the existing units individually.
The grandfathered units,
Do it as a separate,
yes.
I'm a little uncomfortable about the whole process, but, you know, it's a legal question. I've never handled things that way, because again, it's discriminatory.
Right. I have to do a little more research on it before.
Grandfathering is tough. Yeah,
It is, because you pick you have to pick a date and you say before this
Right.
date,
Right,
they predate the ordinance.
that's part of it.
It's such a reasonable
Well,
solution.
anybody that's
It's hard
created,
to- can't be
any
done.
use that's created, that is being created is being transferred into a non-conforming status as a result of the zoning ordinance amendment, that property owner has 1 year to get a certificate of non-conformity from the zoning laws, 1 year. After that, you need to get a D68 review from the Board of Adjustment to determine whether or not you are in fact a legal pre-existing non-conforming use. Going back to the statutory requirement, remember what the definition is of the non-conforming use is one that pre-existed prior to the zoning. Legal pre-existed prior to zoning. So that's
Yeah,
where we're
the
starting.
problem is that these were illegal
Right from the start.
right from the start.
Yeah.
There's never
Really,
really
that's a challenge.
Right, so you're creating it now, and now property owners would have the opportunity within a year to get a certificate of non-conformity. That's how we handle the non-conforming uses, and then we go to the D68 and deal with the Board of Adjustment. which We went that route on a number of types of that, one and two.
With the multifamily, yeah.
We adjudicated a number of those cases.
Any other opinions or ideas from the board? 'Cause I think we recommend that this gets tabled at this point, because
Right.
council doesn't have a
Not ready.
resolution that they
We're
can
not
pass.
ready.
Agreed.
Well, what happens if somebody just went and changed the garage into a housing unit? Or the loft of a garage, and they did it without permits and without inspections?
Well, that's what's happening.
Has
But
happened.
then your
So-
grandfather,
Yeah, so now your grandfather.
Well, the rent,
No.
no, there's the renting
You-
aspect of it also. It's not
If you
just.
do things without a building permit, you're in violation, right there. And that does not protect you on your zoning, because you shouldn't have done any of the conversion without a building permit to begin with. That would health, safety, welfare factors come into play if you start with regard to these units.
So I think you just have to take an inventory and find out which ones were done living without a building permit. And that could be part
We
of.
went through that with two family units,
Yeah.
they were being sold, and, you know, created a dozen or so applications.
I think none of them have.
Kind of.
No,
None of them have building permits.
I seriously doubt it.
And part of the impetus for creating a missive atmosphere, is that it's being done. The housing, office doesn't have any jurisdiction to go in and examine and make sure that the units are up to snuff.
Yeah.
So the idea was, okay, now, one of the things you achieve by permitting at least the grandfather notice is that the housing charter can go in there and enforce the housing codes. So, you know, it's,
You're also gonna have to look at the state boarding house regulations. As part of this, you basically cannot, as a board, you can't stop somebody from renting rooms in their home.
You can, the exception to the land use law is 62 and over, you're allowed to.
Yeah, yes. Right, I didn't mean
Anything
it,
beyond that
yeah,
is
quantity.
regulated by the DCA, and you have to be careful that you don't run into a situation where you're rooming, because that would be, that's also subject to multi-family inspection.
Yeah, you're just explaining how even more complicated it is. I appreciate that.
Because I've been immersed in this for 40
Right.
years, and I've
So-
dealt with these issues.
So just be aware.
And it's
that's-
complicated by the fact that it's been a long time without enforcement.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's always been illegal to rent, right? It's what's been allowed is the family what, the servants, family,
Yes.
gatekeepers, gardeners, whatever.
All right, I'm hearing about as much resolution here as we had Monday night.
Yeah, so,
Well, a few more ideas or cautions, you know.
Yeah. John, can you look at this for us, please?
I'm looking at, yeah.
No, you don't have to do it
No.
now on the spot. Maybe
get back to
let's
us.
table it and get back to us. We don't typically have working meetings here, do we, Mr. Chairman?
No, typically they're scheduled, but no, we don't. We're busy enough, I think, with the.
Maybe if the board permits, maybe, John, you can bring your findings to council to one of our working meetings, and we can. Maybe, Jeff, you can attend that meeting, you can. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think you just accomplished what you wanted to do, which is just good. It's a little bit of collective feedback, but you would take back with you anyway. Okay. Thanks, Sharon. All right, so that was the new business, the first part of new business, second part is the bills.
I'll move we pay the bills in the amount of $7,590.50.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call.
Mayor Knopf,
Yes,
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Horowitz.
Yes.
Ms. Kellogg.
Yes,
Mr. McQueen
Yes.
and Mr. Simoff.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, a request for modification of condition. This is related to the Essex building and the resolution and noticing a anomaly in the size of the truck. Did everyone have a chance to look at that?
Here, oh, yeah, this is, we made it 30 feet, requested 30 feet, but some single unit vehicles are now 40 feet long.
You know, I looked it up, a 10-foot truck is the small U-Haul, okay? A 30
Looks like a bicycle.
not much more. The 30-foot truck is a pretty good sized truck, but the reason for the size limitation was because those trucks would have to park in the
Across the
lot
street.
across the street, and there was discussion at the time of how big a truck could fit
In those
into that
spaces
space
and maneuver.
and move it. I don't remember whether 10 is what we resolved or we resolved some other numbers, but
No, 10 just couldn't have been right.
yeah. But whether if the right number is 30 or 40 or.
Well, but I'm just saying, a single unit truck is either 30 or 40 feet long.
moving thing.
Right, a small moving van.
We're talking about straight truck.
Right.
Their striped loading area is approximately 30 feet. I think
Yeah.
that's,
I think 30 is the answer. And
If they come with a 40-foot truck, they'll just squeeze it in.
well, if they do that on a Saturday or, off hours, it might not be an issue, but that's what the applicant doesn't want for large trucks.
okay, so we just need a motion on this.
There would be a motion to amend, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
the prior resolution condition number 23, to say, I won't read the whole thing, just a final phrase. To state, and no moving truck utilizing the loading area shall exceed 30 feet in length, as opposed to 10 feet in length. Very simple, and I can prepare a written resolution memorializing this
All right.
for our next meeting.
So before we vote on it, Al, you're an expert on you were building trucks. Does that work with a 30-foot truck in that space?
Well, I looked at it quickly last time. It works, yeah.
Okay, motion. I'll make the motion.
I'll say.
I'm sorry, for the second?
I did.
Thank you. Mayor Knopf?
I think I'll abstain because I was not.
Oh, yes, you were.
Right here.
Yep, and I have yours not eligible. Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Ms. Kellogg,
yes,
and Mr. Simoff.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we're up to public hearing. There's no other item.
Bob, yeah, hold on.
Second, I'm sorry.
You recorded vote for me on that. You call my name.
Yeah, I thought I was eligible sometime as well.
I'm not sure I was eligible, because I didn't participate in the hearing to the,
Wait a minute, I
Well, do you have to?
have the
I don't know,
resolution.
that's the question.
I mean, it passes anyway, that was a yes, so
Gardner, Graham, Kellogg, McMillan, and Simon, on those in favor on this one?
And McMillan's no more, similar, yes.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, this is. I know this.
No, that's it, that's what I have as
Yeah,
well.
okay.
Gardner, Graham,
Right, so I didn't vote, you didn't put a vote.
I think we need to.
no, I did not, because you weren't eligible.
Right, okay, good.
I thought you were saying that I should have.
No,
Are there enough?
So I think we need to redo that vote just because Mr. McLean seconded. Maybe it
All right,
wasn't.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, and then roll call.
Okay, similar, okay. Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Ms. Kellogg,
Yes.
and Mr. Simoff.
Yes.
It's all good.
The motion carries.
Okay, so now we're up to the main events. Public hearing, first one, we're keeping this order, right? Denise, there was no request to change any order, right? The
No.
order of the prison, okay. So the first, presentation is the Equinet Properties. It's at 55 Claremont Road. It's in sub-area 6 of the Quimby Lane redevelopment zone. It's at the corner of Claremont and Mill Street. So,
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Roy Kernos. And I have been the attorney that has presented this application for the last 5 meetings. So we hope that we could end it tonight. At the last meeting, public meeting, as you know, was rudely interrupted. And Mr. McDonough was testifying. He was our planner. At that meeting, Mr. G. Migliano, who was our engineer, testified. As our architect testified. And we thought that we would conclude, or Ms. McDonough would conclude his testimony. So I would ask that he's already sworn that he could start over, because I'm sure you don't remember what he said. And we could go on from there. And if the board has any further questions, our engineer is here. Mr. Masucci, who is the named as the redeveloper, is here with regard if there's questions about the architectural changes. And if you recall, the major change was limiting the length of the building on to eliminate the side yard variance, the need for a side yard variance on the southerly side of the property, and an extension, the set of steps from Claremont Road down to Mine Brook, where we're giving a conservation easement. Those were the 2 major changes. So without any further ado, I'd like to call Mr. McDonough.
Mr. Chairman, real quick before Mr. McDonough gets up, I just want to point out for the record, the applicant did renotice for tonight's hearing due to the interruption last time. We're going to carry it by voice. So, just want to point that out. I think both the content and timeliness of the service of the notice is sufficient and sent by certified mail to surrounding property owners on November 1st, 2023, and published in the Bernardsville News on November 2nd, 2023. Both more in advance of tonight's hearing. That's, in my legal opinion, the board of jurisdiction. For the record, thank you very much. Mr. McDonough, you were previously informed.
I might as well do it again
Let's-
because you never know.
Sorry, okay. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
So all you got.
Yes, I do. Take it away, Roy.
Go ahead.
Okay, so again, just by way of recap, we're here for a corner lot in the Quimby Lane redevelopment plan. This is sub area 6. This applicant and this application has moved very nicely with the board as part of an interactive process. I was here with you last time where you saw the beautiful architectural renderings that are going to fill this void and really one of the missing pieces I'll say the Quimbley Lane puzzle and the redevelopment and the revitalization of this area. This application has had great movement to the extent where it does substantially comply with the goals and objectives and the criteria in the redevelopment plan. Most notably, the use is permitted, the density is permitted. There were amendments made along the way that would allow for the density here. So those higher tiers of zoning are met here. The relief that the applicant is seeking is interrelated to the fact that the redevelopment plan envisioned this for a park, and keeping the impervious coverage and the lot coverage and the building coverage consistent with what's there now, which, as we know, is a single family dwelling or a detached dwelling. The applicant is proposing this as a better zoning alternative based on all of the testimony that was put on the record. A beautiful boutique townhouse development that is going to fill the void. We think it is better planning to have massing at this corner, building massing, and to celebrate the waterway that's there, to bring the public to the waterway to the extent that this was envisioned as open space or parkland with some form of development. We think it's better to introduce that building mass here and to bring the trail down to the waterway where we can ultimately piece together a park as we go forward with the redevelopment plan. So we think it's better to have public access associated with the length of the waterway as opposed to just a segment. And we think that, again, this is a better zoning alternative in terms of the statutory criteria. Just to run through the relief that the applicant is seeking here, it's listed very well in Mr. Zabo's report. It's twofold. The maximum building coverage shall not exceed the existing condition. We're at 1,375 square feet now. The proposal is for 6,930 square feet, and that's been reduced from where we previously were, reminding the board that again, based on the interactive process with the board, the applicant did shrink the building, eliminate one of the variances on the side to increase the light and the air, and we think has moved the plan substantially to be in conformance with the intent of the zone plan. Likewise, the maximum impervious coverage shall not exceed the existing condition, which is at 2,475 or 2,475 square feet, where 9,530 feet is what's proposed. Also a reduction of where we started with this application. We will reconcile that under the C2 balancing test as a better zoning alternative for the property. Again, to repurpose this corner, which is not doing anything to contribute value or quality to the neighborhood. Aesthetically, this is going to provide nice, what we call missing middle housing, filling that gap, that void between the larger apartment buildings and the detached dwellings. Not everyone can wants to live in that type of a living environment. So this is a nice middle ground, and we call it the missing middle housing stock. So one of our planning goals is to provide for a variety of housing types, and this provides for some nice variety here at this corner. It's a lower rise structure, not a high rise structure. So we think it's got good integration with the land that's around it. So I think the board can move favorably on the relief, looking at purpose A, the promotion of the general welfare, purpose I, the promotion of a desirable visual environment, purpose M for efficient use of land, and purpose G to provide for a variety of uses in appropriate locations according to the needs of all New Jersey citizens. On the flip side of that, again, we always look at the zone plan intent for green space at this location. We think the applicant has struck a good balance, reminding the board that we have rugged terrain that we're dealing with here. And we are dealing with some steep slope relief as well in two categories. The 15 to 24 or 25% range, where we're looking at 1,955 square feet of disturbance, which is above and beyond the maximum 1,000 square feet that's allowed, or 995 square feet above what's allowed. And then your steeper slope category at 30%, no disturbances permitted. We're looking at 2,700 square feet or a variance being requested in that regard. So again, the applicant thinks that this is a better alternative because the essence of steep slope regulations is to stabilize the site. And that's what this building mass and form is going to do here. It's going to stabilize the site, work the landform down the hill in the form of a built environment, And as we talked about last time with the landscaping along the back portion of the property, in the public realm along that trail, you're going to see nice plantings. We agreed to work with the Burgess firm in terms of finalizing the composition of plantings there, but the will is certainly there to provide for a nice, desirable landscape backdrop along the trail there. So we think the relief is interrelated, the fact that we do have steep slope relief. We think the building mass here goes towards that goal for stability. I believe there was some lesser relief as well related to having a variance permit parking access, vehicle access from Mill Street, where the primary access was to be provided from Claremont or Quimbley Lane. We think, again, given the landform here, moving that access point as far away from the intersection as possible and avoiding a conflict point over at Claremont is a better zoning alternative. Mark, our engineer, went through that in detail as to how this design will flow, will function, will operate safely and efficiently, notwithstanding the relief that the applicant is seeking. We think it's better to bring people in on the low side or vehicles in on the low side and then work up on the landform with the living environment. There was also some design exceptions related to no off-street parking, no off-street loading space, where loading is proposed from Claremont Road. Again, we see that as a better zoning alternative, given the overall design aspect that Mark had spoken about. And then finally, you do have some goals and objectives and design criteria in your Quimbley Lane redevelopment plan relating to the streetscape and the sidewalks. I think that relief, I'm not sure if it entirely went away, but clearly the spirit here to have wider sidewalks and a walkable area. We think the applicant has met that here. Not a wider sidewalk because we don't see eating taking place outside here, the things that you might see in the downtown. So we see this as more of a way as opposed to a destination per se. So we think that the design as proposed here is appropriate, is reasonable, and meets that lesser standard. All said, this application, I think from a planning standpoint, has evolved to a point where the relief is relatively minimal. We always look at balancing, and we think that the positives here that I just laid out for the board would substantially outweigh any negatives. And with that, Roy, that's really all I have on direct. The criteria are met, and I believe approval is warranted.
Okay, you want to do these witnesses for the public individually? Or yeah, questions from, any questions from our professionals for the planning?
I have just a couple clarifications. The original testimony, this is, we're starting over, there was some conditions that were stipulated to during your prior testimony. We talked about the junipers that are planted at the back. I
Yes,
think you mentioned that they had flat feet or some term like that.
yes, they will not interfere or conflict with the utility structures below.
Right. I haven't, the applicant agreed that they had a root barrier.
Yes.
Getting into the underground detention system.
The stipulation still holds, and yes, I have it in my notes.
Okay, we'll add some additional plantings. I guess there was a large gap between the spacing.
Yes, and we'll work closely with Mr. Snyder to the
And you'll add plants along the south side of the building between the fence and the step.
Yes,
Talk about the planting boxes. There's a question of who's gonna maintain those that are put on the building. And
I think that will be part of the association, part of common property maintenance.
right.
To effectuate uniformity. You don't want to have a hodgepodge of plantings in those boxes.
The last thing that I had the board discussing was the tree removal current ordinance, that you would add those couches to the plan that you have to simply have them comply with that.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. I take no exception to Mr. McDonough's testimony. Just to add the observation that, not repeat some of the things that I've advised the board that previously, the use permit, it contemplates not just the park, but other types of uses should they be presented to the borough. Development is occurring, it's probably one of the only sites, if not the only site, that has developable land outside the floodplain in terms of Quimbley land and outside the floodway. So they're maximizing the most developable portion.
The encroachments are really related to the walls and the improvements and the repairing buffer violations related to stormwater and all that stuff happening behind. I think it's significant that the applicant has opened up access to the river as like maybe the first segment of the park. I explained to the board that when you look at a plan like this, the Quimby Lane redevelopment plan does not do a design, and it doesn't assign a park to any one property. And in planning, you contemplate piecemeal, you try to gather up properties and assemble them, or you condemn and purchase. Those are your options. The relief that's being requested is interesting because you're limited to the impervious coverage and building coverage of what's there. I think a lot of that is not just a function of wanting a park, but also the floodplain regulations, which limits development in the floodway, which is a lot of where Quimby Lane is located. And so when I look at impervious coverage of other properties in Area 6, it's interesting to me that they have larger building envelopes, larger impervious coverages that they'd be entitled to versus this property, and this is the one property out of the floodway. I think these are all important considerations for the board to look at when you deliberate on the application. I think the applicant has done pretty much what could be done on this property, given the difficulty of the site. It's topography, the limitations that have been imposed upon it by the county in terms of streetscaping. I think that we need to take another look at how we treat Fairmont Avenue in the plan, maybe some future day discussion about that, because I think it got caught up in what the initial image vision was for Quimby Lane. Really, I don't know if we took a hard look at Fairmont, how it relates to Quimby Lane, given the great disparity in poverty.
Well, we know they're pending potential developments.
I'm not aware of it.
They're, did the property, oh,
That's good news.
no, we put a piece of property right into one of the Area 6.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
Yes, we amended the plan.
So that, I know it's premature, but that's
The old.
part of
wine store
the,
there.
talking about
And the wine
Claremont.
shop.
Wine shop.
I mean, that's related to the comment you made, I think, which is to look at that. Okay.
I think it's a different relationship. Like that, the vision is very clear, just don't know how there is. But I think the board has some flexibility in determining the appropriate level of development.
Did we pick up Matt, did we pick up the other stipulations? I know Bob mentioned some, but did we?
So I did my best to try to piece together what stipulations were in the prior.
Right.
Meetings. I think I'm the fourth attorney for my office to be engaged with this application. I have a whole list of them. I could try to recite them for you if you'd like. Right now, or we can wait till the end.
Maybe we should wait till the.
We can wait.
Okay, yeah, we can run through that.
All right. So we should anticipate doing that.
Right.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You talked about the missing middle housing stock. Can you give us the description of what that is?
This whole book on it, it's basically the gap between single-family dwellings, so that would be two-family dwellings, three-family dwellings, townhouses, quadplexes, works its way up to some of the lower-rise multifamily as well. And then eventually we step up to your typical apartment building, you walk up, or your elevator apartment building. So this is an alternate form of housing that's popular. It's certainly gaining currency because it doesn't have the impact of those larger buildings.
Thank
So
you.
it's very, very popular in planning trends now. I mean, we've always had townhouses, but it's gaining in currency again.
Any other questions at the moment?
There's been some concern raised about the steep slope disturbance where the area is none. There's about 2,000 square feet is no disturbance.
Yeah.
And so in order to separate this from other applications, even though everything stands on its own merit, when we discuss what makes this different than the steep slope issue, because the C2 is comparing the existing or strict conformance to the modified conformance. So
Right.
if it was strict conformance, what would be the impact of that and compared to the C2 variance?
Sure, it's always about balancing and we've given you all the positives that this built environment will bring here. The impact on the natural environment, I think based on the testimony on the record, will be minimal. We're dealing with a site that has been previously disturbed, so some of those slopes relate to the build out that was previously there. It's a relatively minimal amount in terms of steep slopes. This is a boutique development. This is not a massive development. And again, as I said before, to the extent that the intent is to stabilize the slopes on this smaller site, that build out, that step down will provide, I think, that armor, that fortification, if you will, for those slopes.
Mr. Chairman, I would like Mark to address that issue as well, our engineer who testified with respect to the steep slope.
Because that seems to be a lot of people's concern.
Okay. All right, well, no, but you're gonna have him retestify, right?
Pardon me?
He's gonna be giving his own testimony, right?
Yes, yeah.
Well, let's do that when he does that. We'll cover it. So, any questions from the public? Questions for this witness, the planner? Now, comments, questions? Amanda?
What's procedure now? To step over here, introduce one's name?
Yes.
Okay. Here, okay, Kathy Redling, 211 Claremont Road. One specific question, the southeast corner of the property, which is near the wall,
Yes.
how, because that is where some of the stormwater tank is, there's gonna be grass and shrubs and what have you, but how are maintenance equipment and personnel going to access that? I forget the height, 3 or 4 feet, because it's been difficult to fully understand, and that's been a concern, especially in the neighborhood you want to maintain.
I'll defer to Mark on the adequacy for vehicles, but I think that's an area that would have to be manned. You have to go in and manually deal with that.
So,
Wheelbarrows in the good old fashioned way.
and lawnmowers will have to get in there or
Yes.
something too, so yeah, it's not gonna be the power mowers or tractor.
I'm not sure about the power mowers, but I will say it's got limited capacity for large construction and maintenance vehicles.
Right, and that's a big concern in terms of the aesthetics for the park, the people, the neighbors, yes.
Understood. I don't know that becomes a stipulation, but I think the physical landscape itself limits the capacity of what can go back.
Definitely, okay. Second, with regards to, the lack of a loading area. So the assumption is that loading, and logistically, it would have to happen up on Claremont Road with the existing public parking lots,
Correct.
which is a 2 or 2.5 hour zone or time frame right now. And that it is utilized by, other businesses in the area. It is utilized for people who work in the area as well, come to meetings. So has that been considered in the parking utilization, parking impact?
I think it can be controlled through the association. It's something certainly I think we can talk to legally in terms of coordinating times and when those vehicles come.
As well as guest parking up there, because that's the primary egress into the units as well.
Correct.
So
And
that
I
will,
think I'll defer at the end for stipulation, but there will be an association that can control those kind of things.
We're the owners. This is a rental project, so, Mr. Masucci and his, offices will administer this, project or this development.
Can I have a question to that? But can they actually make decisions with regard to timing on the street that isn't part of the development? It's owned by the county?
public parking.
Yeah, they have no.
That's my question, is like, how can you?
I think they can control when move in and move out occurs. So while they can't control when people park on the street, they can control when when people move in and move out.
That was my point.
Correct, but I mean, by
There
the
are
same
rules and
token,
regulations that are stipulated in every unit, and they have to abide by them, which is very similar to what we did across.
Excuse me, Mr. Kernan.
I got it. Mr. Masucci, if you speak, you have to identify yourself and Is this the appropriate time for him
Would
to?
you like me to answer?
It's your case. It's your presentation.
No, well, let's move on then.
Break that from. Wasn't Swan Festival.
You're still the X.
And yes, and let's, and the steep slopes, the public is terribly concerned. My family's been in this town for 140 years and was involved.
That's a comment.
Questions.
I'm sorry,
Question.
okay,
A little bit of private is intended.
okay,
Just
understood, sir,
Yeah,
yes.
appreciate it. Thank you.
So there's the statement that has been made that the slope that is steep there now has been man-made. And yes, that has been at some point. However, we can all see the slope coming from the top of Somerset. You are aware of where that is, the top of the stairs, is very substantial. The
Yes.
brook has been there, the brook will always be there. Yes, the question is, do you feel you are respecting the slope and the stream with this construction?
The short answer is emphatically yes, because we have to look at the project in its totality. And we're making the relationship of the site to the river there, to the stream, much, much better. That edge needs a lot of help. Walked it, what we've all seen, and that edge really needs help. This is an applicant that is ready, willing, and able to fix at least this piece here. So in totality, we think the impact of some previously disturbed slopes is outweighed by the overall benefit of what's happening down by the river or the waterway.
Okay, and I guess I'll ask specifically, the edge you're speaking of, is that the edge of the stream bank or the edge from Claremont Road on through the property?
The connection point where the river or the stream meets the land.
Okay, that's the bank.
The
We call
bank,
that,
exactly, thank you for that.
Okay, and thank you, because that, if you are going to be disturbing that, I guess I'll ask you a question, yes. Are you planning on disturbing or improving the stream bank within the riparian zone?
Isn't that regulated by the NJDEP?
Yes, it is.
And there are permits that have been issued or about to be issued, and they are the guardians and the oversight authority on that, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yes, and is the current pending permit including disturbance of the stream bank?
I'm going to defer to Mark on that.
Thank you.
Say, move on, say you don't know.
I don't know.
You can
Thank
ask
you.
again.
Okay, and in terms of the public parking issue, there's a big concern with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the public of this witness? See none? Okay, Ray, you can bring your next.
I'd like to call Mr. Gimignano, who has testified as to engineering issues on 5 prior occasions.
You've been previously sworn qualified, correct?
Yes, I have.
Swear to say God. You swear affirm the testimony that provides the truth, all truth, and all the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Just a couple of comments. First on the steep slopes. Really, we have 2 areas of steep slopes on site, 2 main areas. There's one area which is by the road, which we've always described as being man-made from the construction of the road and the construction of the home on the property. And then there's a natural area of steep slopes along the stream. The area of steep slopes, and the main reason we're concerned about steep slopes is because of erosion. If you discharge stormwater over the steep slope, it can cause erosion, and that can cause problems for downstream areas. The steep slope area by the road is being eliminated. So that will be eliminated and the building will be constructed there. So there will be no more steep slopes in that area, no concern about erosion or stormwater runoff across those slopes. The slopes, though, the natural slopes near the stream, those were not being disturbed by the application. Those are regulated by the DEP. We have a permit from the DEP for this project, so they reviewed our application, have approved the design within the riparian corridor, and confirmed that any disturbance in that area is within the allowable limits in their regulations. So The steep slopes are being protected, the man-made steep slopes are being eliminated, and, the steep slopes along the stream are being protected by the DEP regulations and permits.
I have a question. Sure. You know, we've heard a lot that the permit, we've heard that you have a DEP designation of the nature of the site. But as far as I can see, it's not in the record. The application for those is in the record, but the actual documentation of the action taken by the DEP on them is not.
The copy of the permit is, but, I mean, I believe we've submitted the copy of the permit, but, I can certainly send in another copy as well, but the permit has been issued. It was issued, several months ago. But we do have a permit for this particular development, at this location.
And when did that permit get reviewed and approved by Mr. Brightly?
We can review the permit. You see that the plans comply with what the permit authorizes. We had no jurisdiction to approve it.
Yeah.
I also understand that you're gonna get that modified to a LOI, residence absence determination.
Yeah, there has been a question about the any freshwater wetlands on site. My testimony has been all along, there are no freshwater wetlands on site. Part of our permit includes a wetland permit because of the stormwater, component of the application. The DEP issued that permit and did not require, any, letter of interpretation, but because there is still a continuing question about the wetlands, we applied to the DEP to confirm there are no freshwater wetlands on site. The reviewer from the DEP sent an email to Mr. Brightly and to the board chairperson this week, I believe, confirming that there are no wetlands on site. The LOI is pending, but it has been confirmed by the DEP in writing to the board that there are no wetlands on site.
Mark.
Mark, can you just remind us again, this was not a major stormwater
That's correct.
management plan with regard to DEP review?
They do not review the storm, it's not a major stormwater development, so the DEP doesn't review it under their regulations. The local ordinances govern the stormwater control on sites, and Mr. Brightly has reviewed our stormwater system. I think there may be some minor outstanding items, but I think we've addressed it most of his questions and comments on the stormwater system. I do have a copy of the permit here. It was issued on July 6th. So maybe I see a copy as well.
And the knowledge of the area, given that, and they might have been,
The board received that more than 10 days ago, right?
It's stamped July 20th.
Okay, so, doesn't need to be
We
accepted.
should write here, should be in the file. Bob, have you reviewed this?
Yes, I looked at it,
Is there anything you want to tell us about?
basically, these plans, appear to be as approved, the disturbance ones as, according to that permit. There was a question of wetlands, the board wanted the LOI. I think that's probably pending, but I did see an email from, Mark Harris saying that he intends to issue that as a, modify it, whatever. I'm not sure what the exact language is, gonna modify that into a present absence determination.
Yeah, we originally applied for a presence absence wetland determination, which the DEP comes out and says either yes or no, there are no wetlands on site. The highest level of their letter of interpretation is called the line verification letter of interpretation, where they come out and they say, yes, where you've delineated the wetlands is accurate. In this case, there's a stream which is considered a state open water with no buffer, but no wetlands on site. So just to make sure there were no questions later on, we modified it, converted it to a line verification LOI. And the DEP has confirmed that the only regulated feature on site is the stream, which is a state open water with no buffer and no freshwater wetlands. So that hasn't been formalized. We do have the email from the DEP, which they agreed to send to help the board, but we're just waiting for them to issue the actual letter of interpretation.
So we'll capture that as a stipulation.
Has that permit been filed with the deed?
Yes, the both the permit and the letter of interpretation get filed with the deed to the town.
Other questions? Good question. Any questions from the professionals? Bob, do you have anything that we have to get over to Matt for, stipulations or anything related to that topic, any of the engineering? Anything additional?
Well, our latest letter is September 27th, 2023. I think we went over that with some detail. The stipulation is compliant. We had just one comment on the stormwater at this point, and that's, regarding the peak flows from 210 and 100, and I believe that we stipulated in complying with that.
Yes.
Quite a few conditions have been stipulated.
Okay,
Yeah, I counted at least, 15, just in that water one.
okay, so that's hence the collection.
No, it's
Talking about, okay. As long as we get them in there.
Yeah, what?
What?
Get what in there?
As long as whatever, is
Yeah,
Compliance with Mr.
compliance.
Bright.
with Mr. Bright's
Yeah,
stuff,
of course,
yeah,
yeah.
That's all.
yeah, that would have been,
I just want to be, just piling on.
The determination on the wetlands was condition that the board required.
All right.
I have one more question. I just remembered. And I apologize, I think we've talked 5 times. You probably mentioned this the first hearing, the sidewalk out front. Is that being rebuilt or is that repairing the existing?
It's being reconstructed.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Put down as a condition.
Is it- Can I just ask how you're dealing with HVAC? I don't remember that.
I don't know, that would have been a question for the,
Yeah, there'll be individual units, HVAC units for each one. I'm not wondering, but it'll be located in each unit will have its own HVAC unit.
and that'll all be interior.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll all be inside, there'll be no, exterior units. That's correct.
Sir,
I'm
so
sorry.
you were previously sworn,
Yes, at a previous meeting,
right, what was your name? I just,
Richard Reimers, REIMERS.
thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, any questions from the public for this witness? Come on out. Where that exit?
Hello, okay, 2 things that may not relate to the engineer, maybe the planner, I'm not really sure whom. As the tree removal application has not been submitted. But with that, there's a number of required tree replacement ratio. Engineer, planner, can you tell the board that you can definitely put the required number of trees, the percent on the property?
We had a problem with trees with regard to the county. And I did, state that the number of trees that we were supposed to have, we would donate to the borough at a location that the borough selected. And that we would work it out with the Burgess firm as to that issue.
So is that a variance because there is a percentage of those replacement trees that need to be on site, if I remember correctly? So that would be another variance request to have those trees not planted on the site.
I'll look at the ordinance, I believe that it does permit off-site contribution.
There's a percent.
25% planted on site, because I think the 75% maximum contribution.
So we would need, to her point, we would need an answer of whether they're anticipating.
My notes from the prior meeting is that they will comply with the ordinance.
For the 25%. Now, that was after they were not allowed to put trees on the county road.
But that was in the right of way.
They're in the right of way.
Yeah.
Well,
They're
just
gonna
the
change
original
that.
plans had you know, they had trees there in the right of way, okay, but.
But that's not, doesn't count in the tree ordinance, because they're off site, and they're in the right of way, they're on.
Anyway,
That's different. That was
anyway.
part of the streetscape, which they're asking for a waiver or relief from.
And it just adds to the complexity of it, yeah. All right, so Donald, look at it, thank you. Do you have another
Yes,
question?
and the other question is, at this point of the variance list, Mr. Brightly, will you still be reminding the board your other matters, section D, item number 3, in addition to DEP approval, approval is required from the board for construction of a structure within the repairing yard as defined in chapter 14-4.3 of the land development ordinance. Page 6.
Yeah, that's a general comment.
Mhm.
That's the way the ordinance is written, the board needs to approve this application.
For construction in the repairing yard. Thank you.
Is
That
that
we-
a variance or?
Go ahead.
That's my question. Is that a variance? It's actually under the, chapter 14, of land development ordinance. Let's see. Design ordinance. Actually, it's under the floodplain water course regulation. So it's zoning variance, design waiver, requires site plan approval. Right. But I think I would understand that to be a site plan waiver. Yeah. Yeah, site plan approval is required on board. Right. To do that. All the potential.
Any other questions from the public for this witness? Questions? Okay, right? Continue.
I have no further witnesses.
Did you want to bring up the applicant? Or just, you were just moving on?
No,
from that?
we-
Okay,
I waive the summation. We've gone through this enough times that you understand our application and what we're seeking.
okay, so now are there any comment? I'm gonna open to the public.
Right.
For comments. So at this point, anyone in the public who wishes to come down and not necessarily ask questions of witnesses, but wants to make a comment about this application, please indicate that you would like to make those comments, and we'll recognize you.
Aaron Duff, 51 Crusty Drive in Bernardsville. You have that? Correct. And then 51. Crusty, one word, CRESP, Drive.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
And it,
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
so I have, it's been several different, hearings on this, and so I've brought up these comments in the past, so I won't dwell too long on them. Just quickly, as far as I can see, the amended application, does not address the QLRP's requirement, for residential developments to contribute 15% of units as affordable on site. That's in section 5.2 of the QLRP. I understand that the redevelopment agreement calls for payment in lieu, but that's not what the law requires. That's not what the zoning for this property requires. If the council feels like it should allow for payments in lieu, it should amend the ordinance. The redevelopers agreement does not bind this board, which has an independent statutory obligation to enforce the zoning laws that apply to this property. On the steep slope, again, that steep slope ordinance was passed to enact guidance or express provision of the master plan, the conservation element of the master plan. I've heard their professionals say, hey, don't worry about steep slope ordinance says on its face expressly. Let's get behind that and see what really the reason for that is, and this is actually going to, be better. Developing property on the steep slope in violation of this ordinance is actually going to be better for the underlying concern. I'm not really sure that that's the applicant's role here. I think the applicant's role is not to cast judgment on the wisdom or the purposes behind an express provision of our law and our master plan. It's to demonstrate through competent testimony and evidence that the criteria for a variance from that is met. I haven't really heard that with respect to the steep slope ordinance. Going back to what Mr. Sabo had mentioned about the walking path, section 5.4 of the QLRP provides that the Brook Park, which is in sub-area 6, shall have pedestrian connections along the waterway between the park and Claremont Road and Mill Street. And section 6.11 of the QLRP provides that any public pathway along the watercourse of the Brook shall be no less than 12 feet in width and be ADA compliant. The application does not provide for that. Now, I've heard, well, it's something, maybe it's a start. It's not compliant. And what it does is, by putting the building where it is and only providing a very thin 4-foot wide non-ADA wood chip path, is it prevents any later expansion of that to meet the vision that's set forth, not just the vision, the terms of the QLRP when it comes to walking paths.
Excuse me, what section of the, when is that?
Sec 6.11 provides that any public pathway along the water.
You said the section of the.
6.11. 6.11. And when you look at the vision that the QLRP lays out, and you look at some of the it doesn't have a site plan application, but it has some visual aids, it has some illustrations, and you see these beautiful wide walking paths along Riverwalk parks. You don't see a 7,000 square foot kind of development looming over you when you're walking there. So I don't know whether let's just see that it doesn't meet those provisions of the QLRP. So as far as I see, they're looking for they have two different grounds for variances under C1. I believe that as Mr. Dabo's memo, that requires some type of hardship to be demonstrated. I haven't heard any evidence of that. Their professional clearly testified that two-family townhome on the existing footprint would meet the legal requirements of or the permitted uses under the QLRP, as would any number of the commercial uses that the QLRP provides for: retail business, restaurant, artisan manufacturing, fitness, art gallery, co-working space. There's no hardship for this applicant to stay within the building footprint. I haven't heard any testimony why it is. The developer won't make as much money if it has fewer units, but that's not a hardship under the municipal land use law. On subsection C2, as the planner indicated, that requires that an applicant show that a deviation would advance the purposes of the zoning plan and that the benefit derived would substantially outweigh any detriment. So again, look back at what the purposes of the zoning plan are. QLRP section 6.7 clearly states the plan envisions sub-area 6 primarily as open space. To accomplish this goal, development from sub-area 6 is primarily limited to the reuse of the existing structures or building footprints and the creation of new open space. So, that's the plan. That's the goal of the plan. Taking the only existing green space in sub-area 6, paving it over, and putting up a big 7,000 square foot townhome development is completely antithetical to that goal. I would respectfully submit that the benefit, whatever the the housing, middle housing, certainly does not outweigh, the detriment, to the vision of the QLRP, that this development, would present. So I guess in broader terms, you know, this park, this Brook Park, which was envisioned in sub-area 6 is the crux of what was the, you know, when you look at the entire Quimby Lane area, you know, this was the amenity, this was the benefit, this was, you know, that gentle density that you talk about. We concentrated density over on the east side where, you know, you don't have the floodplain restrictions. So you can have this conserved big green space on the west side in your beautiful Brook Park. You know, when you're doing now, you know, a piecemeal development by, you know, taking outside of, you know, advances purview and giving it to an individual developer, you need to maintain the standards that will apply, or else that entire vision is wrecked. You don't have any cohesion, and I mean, I understand the desire to have something done, have, you know, some development there. The point is the question is not, is this proposed development better than a ramshackle brick house in the corner? Anything would be better than that. But the question is, have they met their burden of showing that the deviations that they're looking for, from what we want, from what the QLRP says we should have, the type of development that we want, has been met. And I just respectfully submit that it hasn't. And again, I'll say it again. Mr. Otto said it's a very nice looking development. I agree that it does provide a housing option that maybe isn't met, but it's not in the wrong lot. So I would respectfully submit should be denied. Thank you.
Any other comments from members of the public? Go ahead.
One will be more, sorry, presenting again to 11 Claremont.
It's rather be swear or testimony you're about to revise the truth, whole truth, no truth, so help you God. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, one, back up, and I guess it's more the engineered, comments with regards to the southeast area and the riparian zone where the Coltech chamber and a lot of the stormwater retention basins are going to be located. Specifically in the riparian zone, what you would be approving is putting a storm chamber to collect water in the riparian zone. Now, the chambers sometimes get sediment in them, and as the borough's stormwater coordinator, I get involved with the inspections and would expect that I would receive every 3 years report from the condo association noting they have verified that those culverts are empty of any sediment. If they can't get access with equipment to possibly drain them, I'd be very concerned. That's my professional as your employee role that has me concerned with that happening. And a riparian zone that I don't know if it can handle the water in there as well as what would be coming down, given the density of impervious coverage on the lot. It's a very serious concern. Then, as your recycling coordinator as well, I want to speak to the management here. Somerset County, we are fortunate, and the people who would potentially be buying, owning, or renting out these units are entitled with their tax dollars to recycling being collected curbside every 2 weeks. In our tax dollars, we provide them with 2 rolling totes. That's part of the services that they're paying for. I have heard mixed communication information, but I would like to think these 2 basic rolling totes, whether they're 45 or a 64 gallon, would be able to fit 2 per unit or however you deem this, because there's no way you're going to fit a dumpster in there, which is the other alternative for a private hauler to come pick up the recycling. And a reminder, recycling is the law. It's not an option. Thank you.
Any other comments?
So I don't have.
That's right.
Swear affirm the testimony you're about to provide is true, all truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Okay, so I don't have the, data that Mr. Duff and, Ms. Redling has, but I appreciate it. All the way back to the very beginning when we started, I remember, at these meetings, the developer, when the developer purchased the property, they knew the slope, they knew the water, they knew the property and bought it anyway. And even Mr. Daigle at that time said, it's not a hardship because they knew, it's documented, so that's the first, you did, but I haven't. And so, so that's just the beginning, right? So it's not, it was a nice sales pitch, it looks nice, but it's big. And that's been the comment right from the beginning. And I know that the council is, the town council is eager to have this kind of development and have it look nice. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just know that this is the kind of development that's gonna rip all the way up Fairmont, and it's already in the process with 114 Fairmont already. So if it's setting precedent, we don't want it to be oversized. And frankly, I didn't see a whole lot from the developer that tried to scale it down a bit, that tried to include any affordable housing or include more trees and whatnot. So I think that's all I really want to say, is just that it's in your hands. I've heard you asking, great questions, but it's in your hands how the development goes forward and what you're gonna allow and how you're gonna allow it. So, thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Discussion.
Before we start, I missed the last meeting, but I listened to the tape, and I think that should be reflected.
Okay, and did you,
It's
so you said for the last one, did you miss any other meetings? Oh, that's good. Okay, great. So,
We had communicated.
yes, we got an update from you, totally qualified, so then I might have to get you. Bring that up, Denise. Is everybody on this board qualified to vote with that?
I have it on the agenda, hold on.
Oh, it's on the agenda, right?
Yeah.
Eric knows, Mr. Graham.
Yeah. Everyone.
Yes.
Okay, I understand. Okay, just wanted to. Better to do it now than take the vote and then have it redo it.
All right, so.
Well, there was one point that I'd like to add to the list of conditions that haven't been added, is that there's no storage of recycling cans or trash cans in front of along Claremont Avenue in the front of the buildings. They have to either be interior or down below.
Here, they could be set out there, but they can't
Yeah.
be stored, they
Correct.
can't be bins. Okay.
Is that stipulation you agree to?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, they're gonna have a dumpster in the garage parking.
Containers, yes.
Now we're gonna also allow them to put it out on the street.
There's no intention to put, cans out on the street. Everything will be collected by a private hauler from the interior.
Including the recycling.
Trash and recycling.
So cancel that condition, Mr. Conlon.
Well, then the condition has to be that there be private hauler for recycling and trash.
It's in my list.
Okay.
A long list.
You might as well add to that, that it can't be stored outside.
The dumpster can't be put on.
All right. Oh, what is that for?
Okay, I will start. I brought my list when we talked about this the last time.
Public hearing. Discussion, or-
Oh, well, yeah, yes, the public period for comments is posted.
We talked about this a few months ago and I'm not sure I could qualify it as a straw poll, but we all gave our comments. I will repeat those. My comments were, I thought the architecture was very desirable. I liked the underground parking, thought it was a benefit because you're not having an exposed parking lot that could be an eyesore in this beautiful vision of our new downtown. And to add to that, one of the pros, I think, was the elimination of the variance for the setback on the south side of the building. Having said all that, I really agree with Mrs. Redling and Mr. Duff, your comments, Kathy Peachy. The ordinance for the stream corridor riparian zone is not being upheld and it's greatly ignored. The 10-foot of excavation or disturbance to put in a stormwater management basin. I think it's ignored on the plan. It doesn't, there isn't even any proposed grades over that basin. You look at the plan and think it's not even there, but that's a big disturbance in an area that we write those ordinances to have riparian zones to respect the stream and to keep it from flooding. And then we wonder when we let all this go, why is flooding downtown? So this is an area of the borough where we experience a great amount of flooding, and our zoning proposes a beautiful natural park on this property. And restoring that corridor and making it a focal point for the QLRP vision. I don't think the plan does that. The coverage of the site was increased when the revised plans came back, and that was because we did ask for the walkway on the south side of the building. But we also asked for you to downsize the development, and none of that happened. Came back with more impervious. The steep slopes on the site are significant. The steep slope disturbance is excessive, sometimes 2 times to 10 times the allowable in certain categories. The applicant has stated that the slopes are man-made, but man-made slopes were never excluded when the steep slope ordinance was put in effect. And then to add to that, I'm not sure I had this point a couple months ago, but I think there's a safety issue with not having a site loading and unloading zone on the site and having it in on a public street, especially at that intersection where if you're coming up Mill Street or turning, you're going onto a very narrow county road and you might not even have sight distance. So those are my concerns with the project.
Go ahead.
I look at this application where I really get stuck is with the impervious coverage and building coverage. This is in a situation where you're looking for a variance for a 10 or 15% increase. The increase in the coverage of the building coverage is 5 times what's permitted, and the impervious coverage is 4 times what's permitted. I think Mr. Duff did very well why this can't be considered a C1 variance before there's no hardship here. As far as C2, what I hear is that you don't like what's in the plan and you think a more larger building would be better for the town. Well, that's not the vision the council had when they created these limitations. And you can see that the idea there was a more open space. And I think that if you go forward, and as a result of the size of the project, some of the amenities that were supposed to be achieved in the village, the streetscape, the landscaping, parking, the streetscape and landscaping can't be accomplished because you're so close to the road, the county won't let you put any of that stuff there. So I don't see this, these suggestions advancing what the idea of the Quimby plan or being beneficial to the community. I'm also concerned about the affordable housing. If the plan says that it has to have 15% and doesn't provide for a cash payment, then I'm not sure how we can approve it. Because it's a cash payment unless the council amends the plan. And the last thing, I can't find that point that Mr. Duff raised about the 88-inch or 88-foot walking path, but I just look like it. Again, I don't see this as accomplishing the design for that part of town that council had in mind with the rest of the town.
Yeah, all right. I have to say, I like the design, I like the look of the streetscape. I think it's very attractive, I think that is a vision that we have been looking for, is right on the sidewalk, there's. No, and, you know, you're not looking at a parking lot, you're not looking at cars. I have to agree with both Jeff and Mary that I think it's too big. And if you're standing at the car wash down on Quimby, I mean, it goes up 65 feet. I think that's not gonna be a good look from down below, looking up at it from Quimby. Even if there is a park there, you'll be looking up at this kind of wall in the back. I think it's doable, I just think it has to be downsized. And less of a disturbance on that really tricky lot. That's me.
Chad?
Nothing more to be said.
I think Mary and Jeff and the mayor expressed their opinions as well. Really think that it's overbuilt.
And sorry, my opinion is it's really oversized. And incredibly oversized, when you consider the vision and so forth. Practically, I would be willing to consider 6 units, one of which is affordable. But, you know, it's a question of what we could do with that extra space. It's still gonna exceed all of the impervious limits and everything else. It might provide some relief on the stormwater sizing. That's the big concern I have, that it's really massively increasing the impervious, and unfortunately, in the sense from an applicant standpoint, there is the vision of it being a park. You know, it's not just a question of, well, here's a lot and adding more coverage. It's hey, wait a minute, it was supposed to be this other thing in the Quimby redevelopment plan. I mean, that's the most significant concern I have.
For me, it's the statement that it's 10 times the allowable coverage.
Yeah, fine, whatever. It's not just a minor, adjustment, like give me 20% more or whatever. No,
It's 10 times
massive.
the allowable disturbance to 30% of greater slopes.
I heard 10%.
Well, whatever, it's massive. I'd like to say that I have been appreciative of the applicant's willingness to adjust the proposal and listen to comments and feedback. Just as another comment.
Another point is, if this was a major drainage application, the impact would, or the ability to, wouldn't have this ability to build this intensity. But just by.
That's it, yeah. John, is the question for you, the other side of the river, the other side of the stream. This lot is also on the other side of the stream, I believe. Is that part of the same area? Is the area based on the property line of the lot, or is the area based on the?
I think the
stream?
flat is only on the side of the screen. The one that goes.
No, it's on both.
It's on both sides.
Yeah.
And they, I wonder if they're going to dedicate that area to parking.
Well, I was just, in terms of the vision of a walkway, is there theoretically, you know, for the vision of it, there's something where the river walk could be on the east side of the stream versus the west side.
And talks about, you know, access on the other side. It includes both.
Yeah,
You could consider, and it talks about if it's impractical and, you know,
if you've anticipated it, it's just that that hasn't been folded into this application. We'll do this piece. And
I don't want to interfere in your deliberations, but Mr. Reimers at one of the meetings indicated that the easement, be happy to give the easement to the property that he owns.
yeah. I just, you know, the key is to, with any application to make it better.
No, in fact, looking at the existing topo, the stream does run just a few feet west of the property line. It's pretty much along.
Oh, I'm not saying there's a lot of space there. It's not like, oh, yeah, here's this whole strip, you know, why don't we just put a sidewalk there? I'm just saying that the stream is on the property and there is some land on the other side, and in theory, as part of a larger vision, a river walk would be on the east side of the stream.
I don't know if they're.
But it's not part of this app, I'm just talking about. Okay, any other comments?
Do my best to run through the list of stipulations and conditions.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Well,
like I said, unfortunately, nobody wants to
Do you have a straw or what?
well, I think the comments on the board have the applicant rethinking their application.
Okay, well, sometimes what we do is we do like the straw vote to give you a sense of where we are. But if it wasn't clear from the comments, then we don't need that.
the applicant can always request a straw poll, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Did I interrupt you?
No, you're, yes.
I've been waiting for you.
The applicant, is listening to what you're saying, and we would, adjourn put the application off and shrink the building. And come back. Because if we get a denial, then, we're in bad shape.
Discretion.
Ours,
Yeah. You're open to it?
we're open to see what they come up with, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any guidance that we want to provide?
Much more.
Yeah, I kind of gave you the maximum, I think, that
Six.
would, you know, like conceivable, but I think that's still way over
Yeah.
the impervious values. That
We
was
want
just
to take
kind
a
of.
straw poll and that and give it a guess, you know,
I couldn't do that, that's in the plan, seeing how it's laid out.
But if you reduce the size of the building, maybe you can get a handicapped access up to the plan line.
I don't think that's possible. I'm not an engineer, but I think Mr. Brightly can answer that question. It's very steep and, the risers are different. I can't be done, I don't believe.
Yeah, on the ADA stuff, it was like, I was surprised that there was actually fairly, you know, there was a grade level, but it was actually not all that navigable, you know, it wasn't guaranteeing, you know.
I mean, I'll give you my personal opinion. I mean, we have issues with disturbing steep slopes. I'm not sure that I would push that issue. What would have to be required is continue to disturb slopes and create slopes and revise topography.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of I'm agreeing with you, I think, which is, to me, the disturbing of the slopes is not. To me, the coverage is more of what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about really as much disturbing slopes, even though it's incredible because it's kind of being replaced with an entire,
I'm with you, Bob. I guess the only realistic note, I wouldn't want to make additional slope for ADA that couldn't be.
oh, that's what your point,
Yeah.
okay.
But I am with you on my general concern. My general concern is with the size above and beyond. So
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and the stormwater issues that I think Kathy brought up, Brendan. I think that's worth considering.
I think getting all the disturbance out of the riparian zone,
Yeah.
I mean, there's obvious places where you have to, with this plan, put the driveway in the riparian zone because it doesn't allow for anything else. But with a redesign, consider removing everything from the riparian zone. And then you're adding 50 foot to that stream corridor and parkland vision. And perhaps the stormwater management system could go in some type of a chamber under the building or under the parking lot. So that it's not disturbing more land in the riparian zone and in the steep slopes.
We don't think that's doable.
Yeah. Under there's some challenges.
It's done all the time.
We just amended one condition on an application where we have like,
You just did one where they had,
actually, that might not be an infiltration.
infiltration. All right, so we're amenable, we are, right? We're all amenable to them taking another swing at the bat and the bat guidance.
Yes. I'm amenable, you know, swing it one after the plate, I don't swing at the bat.
Swing at the bat, with the bat, yeah, okay.
Denise, would you know when the next available meeting would be?
Yeah, we have quite.
Well, they need time too,
Yeah,
so
right.
when,
Yeah, not until at least January.
They're probably behind
Yeah, we are. We've got 5 other applications
Yeah.
in the queue.
You get a date certain on that?
Well, if I look at the agenda,
Because I'd like to, if we could, I think the applicant would be very appreciative if we could carry it by voice announcement, have them renotice.
are there anything else that are gonna expire?
Well, then,
I don't know what to ask. but-
we get it.
We would get an extension.
We'll be ready in 60 days.
We have to sit down and decide whether we wanna come back
Right,
or end it. And
right,
leave the property as it exists. And until somebody else comes along and wants to buy it.
right,
And it also affects, we start losing units, it affects the affordable housing number, of course. So we'll let you know. We would prefer not to renotice. I've renoticed this application 5 times. Big expense, so we would just soon carry it for 60 days.
the only issue with that is if we change the format of the meetings beginning in January, then that would automatically require another notice.
Could we keep that particular meeting under the existing format?
Usually you notice the whole year.
Exactly, yeah, we noticed the whole year, that would, I don't know.
I think the notice is the least of your
Pardon me?
expenses.
Hmm?
The new notice is the least of your expenses.
That's true, but not according to my secretary who has to do it. And she's the only one that counts.
Yeah, gotta keep them happy.
If you know the date of the reorg meeting, potentially be carried to reorg at least 7 days a date certain, and then we could have it carried by voice for then. I would also, that's what they have, to acknowledge that one, and I go,
I
believe the reorg meeting is the 11th.
Okay.
It's not an opinion of us.
Okay, that might work.
I know, but this, here we could be on the fellow, so we didn't do it. We're told exactly what to do when we go off. Right? Yeah, but we were told that we can't satisfy them on site. And
It's not, yeah, COLA's not before the board.
I know, but when we come back in 60 days and they bring up COLA, I would like everybody to know that we have no say. We were told that we can't satisfy COLA on site. So can you guys work that
By
out?
whom?
That's a council matter.
Yeah, that's John Pigeon.
Yeah, that's John, so we need to talk with John anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but we understand, we understand it was not in.
Mr. Kerno. So we're gonna adjourn this to January 11th. 2024,
I may be retired by then.
With no, without notice, right?
without other notice, same time, same place here,
Yeah.
and if we need an extension, we
I'll
also.
send you the letter about that.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Right, so if it wasn't entirely clear, this matter will be carried to the January 11th, 2024 meeting of the board. Which is also a regular meeting, and then at that point, we're ready to proceed, or we'll carry it
But you
again.
said with no further notice.
With no further notice, correct? This is just me announcing this right now, that is the notice that is going to be carried for that.
Okay. So we should, on that meeting,
Well, reorg's gonna be on that day no matter what, right?
right,
Right, so that's what, then, at the reorg date. Then if we would shift everything around, then we figure it out. Okay, right, it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Next application is, does anyone need it? Okay. Next application is, Brook Road Urban Renewal Association for the, one of their applications, which is 63 Bernards Avenue.
So Chairman, I'll just point out for the record, while everybody's getting ready, that I had an opportunity to read the applicant's notice. And that contact, which I mean, this is publication to be submitted. Really got to be careful. Applicant, sent the notice by mail to property owners, which will be on November 2nd, 2024.
yeah,
Oh, we bought it? Oh, I'm sorry.
no, well, I'm asking you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that being projected by.
So you'll be on the record here, so. And we could, they have to, whatever, we can wait.
What's going on? Taking a recess?
No, this is nothing wrong.
Yeah.
All right, recess till 20 after 9. At least by that clock.
You go.
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna probably get in that. Oh,
I haven't seen lots of people, God knows how long.
Yeah, I just pulling back up.
Like my old school.
and they still work. Yeah, Mark, you put board, which is great.
My favorite word is streets.
You all look so different in person. You all look so different.
And on the Zoom call? Yeah.
Take care.
I have one thing that I'll get first. That was the latest. Or this one just came this week.
Yeah.
But I think Bob's is August. Your latest review is August 31st.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're right.
What's that? Like, prepared, I think we are working on it. Brownies or rock farms wasn't the motto.
It's a good.
That is provides our daughter.
Sure, that's why I hate that. This.
I'm just like, I'll be able I'm gonna do that one.
I just, the same thing, I'll do it. Speak for the
That's exhausting.
I don't think, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm a big.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, it is. So I don't know whatever it is. I know. And I think, Matt, you were in the middle. Chris, sorry. Sorry.
We're both like,
My bad.
both millennials, and both shortly, also here. Key distinction, I have glasses, he has good eyes.
Okay.
Good to know.
It's when you wear the same tie. They.
You have the same time?
I think so.
Yeah, good things. The red tie team here.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can start with the training.
You can resume. Okay.
As I was saying before, I'll start from the beginning. I had an opportunity to review the applicant's notice here. I think both the content and conduit to the service of publication would be sufficient. The notice was sent by certified mail to owners of the property within 200 feet of the subject lot on November 2nd, 2023. And notice was also published in the Courier News on November 3rd, 2023. Both being performed well more than 10 days in advance of tonight's hearing, and thus, in my legal opinion, board is jurisdiction over the. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, Mayor, Councilman, members of the board, Craig Genetti, the law firm Dave Pitney. On behalf of the applicant, Minebrook Road Urban Renewal LP. I have to say it's nice to, even though there was the comfort of my home only 10 minutes away, but it's still the comfort of my home. It's nice to see everybody in person. And doing this back again.
On this side of the fence, looking at.
I'm sure. So this is an application for amended preliminary and final site plan approval in connection with property located at 63 Bernards Avenue, block 102, lot 12. The property is located in the AH7 Affordable Housing Overlay Zone. The applicant is an affiliate of RPM Development. As you may recall, we presented an application in the summer of 2022 with this project, which was granted preliminary site plan approval. RPM is an experienced 100% affordable housing developer that develops affordable housing using the federal low-income housing tax credit program. The subject property is approximately 0.82 acres. It's presently developed with a 6-unit kind of multifamily residence, and the applicant is proposing to demolish that and construct a 2-story apartment building consisting of 22 affordable rental units. They'll consist of 4 1-bedroom units, and then 2-bedroom units, and also some 3-bedroom units. And there'll be associated parking and sidewalks and stormwater management. As I noted, we received preliminary approval on August 11th, 2022. There were some conditions of approval, and there was also feedback we were receiving from the board with respect to the location of the building, shifting it, some of the parking that was located on Bernards Avenue, as well as the main parking area located to the north. So as part of this application, some amendments were made to the site plan. The building size was reduced slightly from 27,677 square feet to 25,589 square feet. We also adjusted some of the setbacks and relocated the parking that was proposed. There's a small little parking area on Bernards Avenue that was removed. There'll be a dedication of some of that area to right away for Bernards Avenue, and the building was shifted down a little bit to allow for a parking area with parking on both sides as opposed to a single side as proposed previously. In addition, there are 7 electrical vehicle charging stations that have been added to the parking area. This project, as I noted, is 22 affordable rental units. This project is a key component of the town's court-approved affordable housing plan. And this site, and as the board aware as well, there's 2 other sites kind of associated with it, one on Minebrook and one on Mount Airy, each one having its own separate site plan application. But for development and funding purposes, it's kind of viewed as a single affordable housing development that will be owned and operated by RPM Development. As you'll hear tonight, we do have some design waivers that were identified in the board professional review letters with respect to the minimum distance for parking and internal roadway, as well as from the tract area, as well as the parking from the public right of way. In addition, we have an exhibit here tonight with respect to the monument sign. There's really no zoning standards for a monument sign in this zone. So technically, I guess we'll need relief from it, but we'll present that tonight and get any feedback from the board. But with respect to the AH7 zone, the application fully complies with all the requirements. And again, just there were certain design standards that we're seeking relief from. I have here with me tonight both Kevin Shelley, our civil engineer, and Aaron Pumo, the architect, who both testified before you on the original application. So unless there's any questions of me or any housekeeping matters, I'd like to start with our first witness, Kevin Shelley.
Gretchen. Yeah.
swear according to the testimony you're about to provide, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so, yeah. Yes, I do. Great, thank you. And, this is just for the record.
Address is 1985 Highway 34 in Wall.
Mr. Shelley, if you could just briefly provide the board, your experience, qualifications in the field of civil engineering.
I am a licensed professional engineer in New Jersey since 2012. My license is current and in good standing. I testified in front of various boards across the state, including previously in front of this board during the preliminary.
And you were accepted as an expert in the field of civil engineering the last time in August 2022.
Yes.
And that's that the board accept Mr. Shelley again as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
So, yes.
I guess with respect, and Denise, maybe help me out with respect to the exhibits, did you or someone in your direction prepare any exhibits in connection with tonight's meeting, and we can have those marked?
Sure, yes. I have two exhibits. The first is a copy, I'm not sure.
This is the application. So, I'm sorry, just 1 second, so I didn't get a chance. What we're doing for their exhibits is I've given them access to the meeting, just the professionals, so that they can show their exhibits.
Great.
And that they can be recorded as well.
Thank you. It says I need to be let into the meeting.
Oh, you were in.
I was, am I supposed to?
Oh, you know what, we stopped the meeting, I apologize, 1 second.
So we have two exhibits. That I can share.
There we go. Do you have paper copies of these?
I do, I have a copy as well.
Okay, thank you, so I can mark the file.
Yes, it's mounted, I can give you a different copy to have, I think on a mounted board.
So, well, if you're gonna be presenting the digital version. I don't know if you have marked on street side, somebody says it's digital, you know, but.
No, I don't think if if it's identical,
Yeah.
it can be all the same.
Okay, so we're just gonna mark this all as exhibit A1, if you identify and date that version.
Sure, exhibit A1 is a copy of the rendering that was prepared and utilized during the preliminary site plan application. It's dated August 5th, 2022. And then the second exhibit is a rendering dated November 15th, 2023, based off of the current site layout.
And I guess initially, there were some completeness waivers that were requested, I guess previously granted by the board as part of the last application, requested again as part of this application.
Yes.
You can just walk through this.
Yes, the board planner's letter identifies 9 checklist items that require waivers for completeness. Mainly improvements that are beyond the current property line, such as grading, topography, other improvements that are 300 feet or 500 feet beyond the property. Again, we would agree to comply with those, provide them any type of final compliance plans. And again, these are the same waivers that were granted during preliminary. I don't believe waiving these items would impair the board's ability to review the application.
We'll take that as the first stipulation, you guys will see final quality.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
So maybe using, and I guess, do you have an aerial exhibit or do you have, you want to use A2? Can we just kind of orientate the board on the location and surrounding area?
So this is exhibit A1, that's the prior rendering of the site. Again, you see the property is located at the northwest corner of Bernards Avenue. Bernards Avenue on plan with Grove Street located going vertically on plan in the northwest corner. It is approximately 0.82 acres and is presently developed a 2-story multifamily residential structure and detached parking garage and a paved area. The again, as Mr. Giannetti said, the applicant's proposing to construct 22 100% affordable housing units here within a 2-story building. During the preliminary hearing, we talked about some of the challenges and difficulties on the property, particularly the fact that there's a borough plan to realign and reconstruct Bernards Avenue along the bend here that was not previously known to us when we did the design. So the previous application or the previous iteration showed a portion of the parking coming off of Bernards Avenue with the remainder of the parking back behind the building. And the testimony that we provided during the preliminary hearing was we were going to be making modifications to the plan to adjust the geometry of the building, slide the building towards Bernards Avenue and relocate all the parking back behind the building with a single entrance off of Brook Street. I'm going to switch to exhibit A2 now, which again zooms in on the proposed site conditions. And again, I believe that we've accomplished all the items that we told the board that we would do during the preliminary hearing. Again, as you can see, the building has been slightly modified in terms of its geometry, but overall it's still a very similar size. Minor reduction in the overall floor plan square footage. The building was shifted towards Bernards Avenue, and then all of the parking located on a double-sided drive aisle back behind the building. So again, the features that we said that we would do during the preliminary hearing, we believe we've accomplished them.
Is that whole parking area kind of pitched downward?
So the site existing all kind of grades from this intersection of Bernards Avenue and Grove Street towards the back corner here. In order to be able to provide handicap accessibility to the building and the units, the parking lot is essentially flattened in this area, which results, again, we talked about this during the preliminary hearing, but the need for retaining wall along the northern property line and then down the western and I guess southwestern property lines. Retaining walls along the northern side of the range, it's about 10 feet in height. And then along the westerly property line is up to 15 feet at the highest point. Again, the retaining wall is located in order to create a flat site in order to construct a apartment building that is handicap accessible for all the units. The retaining wall, again, on the north side of the property, which the parking abuts, will have a guide rail for protection for the vehicles, as well as a safety fence atop for fall protection. It was originally envisioned that this fence would be 4-foot aluminum fence, but due to the location and the fact that we only have about 5 feet between the curb line and the property here that has a retaining wall and a guide rail and a fence, we would propose it as a solid 4-foot vinyl privacy fence. What this will do is it'll help shield any type of headlights from these vehicles parking facing the adjacent properties. That solid fence will shield any type of headlight infringement onto those properties.
Mr. Shelley, if I could report one quick one. We're showing green along the back there.
Yeah.
The plan is showing landscaping.
Right, so landscaping, we have about 3-foot gap between the top of the wall and the back of the curb. That 3-foot space will have a guide rail with bumpers on it. No space significant enough to landscape it, whether that's actually stone, what'll end up being.
Why is it green?
Yeah, it'll probably end up being stone just for in theory, it could be lawn, but that's just, someone's gonna have to mow it, you need back here, it's not.
It was a condition of the board. I just point out that that's showing green, which gives you the impression you were doing something, but it's not reflected on the landscape plan. So thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
But it's not landscape.
If not landscape, it would probably be a stone finish on our site for maintenance. It was previously testified, the building has internal trash compaction, a trash enclosure located in the back of the parking area. Trash would be compacted inside the building, wheeled out into the trash enclosure where it would be picked up. One of the comments was asking about maneuverability.
of a trash vehicle so that we didn't end up with a situation where the trash truck ends up having to back out onto Grove Street. And what we'll do is there's about 3 spaces in the middle and the top of this parking area here that we can designate as visitor parking only, no overnight parking. So that during the morning hours when trash comes to pick it up, the trash up, they're able to back up and do a K-turn movement inside of these spaces before leaving the site, so that they won't have to do a full back out movement. Again, we'll provide a turning analysis plan that shows it. We ran some models today just to confirm that we can do that. So we've got 3 spaces there that would be signed, visitor parking only, no overnight parking, to make sure that a trash truck can make that movement.
Can you just
Sure.
say again, you're gonna say no overnight parking there,
So-
is that trash truck coming during the overnight hours?
No, so it's just to ensure that when the trash truck comes in the morning, that there's no cars parked there. So if they come at, you know, in the morning, at the beginning of the day, that there's no cars parked in there from an overnight. So it'll be open during the day or during the overnight, so that early in the morning there is no conflict.
How many parking spots are
We'll sign 3 spaces here. That's enough. for the
Total,
truck.
and then-
Are there any,
There's 39 total spaces,
Okay.
for the site, including 7, electric vehicle spaces, which is compliant with the township ordinance.
would you anticipate that visitors might want to stay in there?
These spaces would be the only ones that are designated as visitor only, no overnight. With the mix of 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom units, it's typically not a private community that has overnight stays. But again, there is additional parking here that is available to anyone. The reality is we're providing about 1.75 spaces per unit. Typical affordable housing uses less than that, maybe 1.5 spaces. So we would not expect all these parking spaces to be fully utilized at this development.
How does it compare to RSIX?
It complies with RSIS. We have the 10% reduction for the EV parking spaces. By RSIS, 43 spaces are required. You have a 10% reduction for the EV spaces, making 39 the requirement, and we have 39 provided. From a stormwater standpoint, this is a major development. The rear parking area has an underground basin underneath it where runoff it will be collected, stored, and discharged. Again, I've spoken with Mr. Brightly, the original comments, again, as the site currently drains from the plan from the right to left, that runoff heads towards the stream back here or towards a collection system and out. And we are routing the pipes, the runoff into Grove Street because we don't have a place to physically connect to discharge stormwater to besides Brook Street. There is a drainage pipe that does run along this property line. It's not on our property, it's on the adjacent property line. If the borough does have easements that would allow us to make a physical connection to that line to discharge the stormwater, we'd be happy to investigate that. But from the information I have at this time, we wouldn't be comfortable proposing that, saying this is where we're gonna send our stormwater without knowing that we have the right to do that. But if we are able to run a pipe through the property underneath our retaining wall and connect to that system, and continue the stormwater heading in the direction that it currently goes now, that's the direction that we would go.
So your roof drains and the parking are going to the underground system?
Correct. Roof drains, parking all go to the underground system, which right now proposes to connect to the existing drainage network in Grove Street.
The next question is, do you conform to the new regulations?
We conform to the regulations of the 2020 rules from when the application was submitted. The site plan will be, again, it's a major development, it will be fully conforming to the stormwater rule.
But the new regulations changed in August.
Right, and this is an amended application of the prior approval.
It's a revised preliminary.
Essentially, Mr. So off the, when they file the application, those are the regulations that are applicable. Dating back to the original, the original preliminary approval.
Well, the application was also submitted back in May.
Also, this one's it's on two.
No, but you have to have approval before August, the first week of August, in order to, conform to the new regulation.
Right, no, once the application is filed, that's the point in time where they basically are grandfathered essentially, according to the
But
20.
that's the old plan.
Right, but even with this new application, they filed it prior to.
Filing has nothing to do with the regulations. It's the date of the approvals, isn't it?
No, when filing, as it affects their application, because they filed ahead of that change. That's why those are the rules that apply at that point in time.
Is that right, Bob?
I'd have to really look into that. I look at this as an amended preliminary. So they had received approval before July 1st, I think it was.
But the regulations come into effect, you have to have approval before what's the date of July,
Yeah, but we had approval, we had preliminary approval.
but not for this plan.
So
You change
that's
the
what has-
drainage and zoning.
But it's an amended approval.
But it's amended approval, it's not a new approval, it's not a new application.
Plan was essentially.
We could go back to the original plan and seek final for that. We're coming in for amended approval to address some of the comments we've received, but it's not a new, it's not a new application.
But the original plan didn't work, and we all agreed that you had to have approval before a certain date in order to get your funding, and we did that. But now this is a much better plan, but I think it has to conform to the new regulations. Because it's a revised preliminary.
I don't believe that's correct.
So it sounds like we probably have to find out.
I can confirm.
We can confirm this.
Just confirm.
In short, it will comply with whatever the applicable standards are, but it's as an amended application that was submitted before the rules were adopted, it is conforming or will conform under those.
But the regulations require that they be approved by the date, not filed by the date.
And if that's the case and the new rules apply, then we would agree to make sure that this final design complies.
Well, but
Figure it out.
Can I make a proposition, Mr. Jenny? Would your office be willing to provide just a
Yeah.
letter explaining your position on this? And
Yes.
we'll review that. Get back to Mr. Simoff on that. Good, thank you.
We've also
Can you
made of our own.
Speak to the adequacy of the drainage system that you're tying into, kind of the downstream run that it's gonna take down. It's going down Brook Street. Where does it head? Where does it connect to where it was initially going?
How would the water flow? Basically, has been going
And
under
does
Grove.
that system in Brook Street all the way downstream to where it ultimately, is it adequate?
So that was one of the points Mr. Bradley brought up in his letters about kind of doing a little further analysis, tracing this Brook Street drainage system all the way. Right now, the drainage system runs, to the north, into the development, the ultimate discharge point. I'm not sure. What we have is, our analysis is there is flow from the site right now that heads out into that system. The design is that we are reducing the flow that currently leaves our site into that system to apply our reductions to that to comply with the rules. Again, Mr. Bradley has some comments about doing further capacity analysis, investigating that line, which we will. And again, we've also agreed to simultaneously continue investigating the rights that town or the borough has, as well as us as a developer of the property, to connect to that drainage system on running parallel to the property. And again, if we can connect to it, we will, and send the runoff the same direction that it's currently going in.
And that reduction that you're going to make, is that reduction on the drainage from the whole site, which once went the other way? Or is it just on the small piece of the site that went towards Grove Street initially?
So the reductions apply to everything. So right now, there's a small, if you look at the site in its current condition, there's an area roughly in this corner that drains into Grove Street. And the rest of the property is mostly lawn area, all drains to the back.
Correct.
We have to require our reductions to everything. So there's an amount of runoff that heads this way and an amount of runoff that heads that way. We have to make sure that when the site is developed, we're not increasing runoff beyond what currently exists.
Each drainage area needs to be analyzed separately.
Yes.
Correct, that's why I'm asking, to make sure that you're analyzing the very little piece of that. I looked at your drainage map and a very little piece of it drains to Grove Street.
0.07.
Bulk of it goes the other direction. So when you're doing your stormwater management to reduce those flows, you're reducing them to the reduction of just what's going to Grove Street.
Right, and the end result is we have very little, there is some flow right now that leaves and heads towards Grove Street. What it does is it makes it have a much larger stormwater system under the parking lot. To hold back that water, to slowly release it, to make sure that our flows aren't exceeding what's there now.
And then I guess my next question is that stormwater system and the proximity to the retaining wall that you're building and how you're keeping the water in the system and not pushing into that retaining wall situation.
So we've done a geotechnical analysis out on the property. What we found is that the soils don't naturally infiltrate anything, that there's different clay materials in there on top of the rock. So there is no natural infiltration. So this is designed as a detention basin that would be stored, collected, and discharged out. So there is no natural infiltration happening here. The stormwater is going to be collected and put into an underground basin where it'll be controlled and let go. So you don't have a situation where water is pooling behind a retaining wall, creating any type of hydraulic issues like that.
And there's some type of impermeable barrier.
If a type of barrier was needed to ensure that there was no kind of lateral movement of that stormwater, then that's what we would incorporate as part of the design.
But don't you have to provide a certain amount of infiltration?
If the ground doesn't naturally infiltrate, there is no existing recharge requirement. You do additional soil testing in accordance with the stormwater rules to show that there is no current recharge happening on the site. We would be required to do additional testing to document that, to show, that doesn't happen. So it's one of the comments in Mr. Brightly's letter as well.
There is additional soil testing.
I'm stepping on Bob's comments.
Just follow the rules.
Continue.
I apologize, Bob.
Other site utilities are brought to the site coming from Grove Street. Water and sewer will happen through Grove Street. We are going to be bringing electric. There's going to be a transformer located in the general green area over here, where electric service will be brought into the building. During the preliminary hearing, it was desired that we would locate all of our meters, gas electric meters on the west side of the building. Unfortunately, I don't think that there is an ability for the electric meter to be located on the westward side of the building. We have a plan, and Aaron, our architect, will be able to walk you through some of the changes internally to the building. But inside the building, we have 2 utility rooms, a water room and an electric room. The water room is where our backflow preventer is going to be located. Those utility rooms will be located in the front of the building, closest to Grove Street. So water will be brought into that water room with backflow preventers. Same thing with electric. Electric will be brought into that room. Inside the electric room are your disconnects, your panels, breakers inside that room. And the meters will be located on the north face of the building. There's a little covered enclave area here that Aaron will show you on floor plans that'll have the meters, and will provide some landscape screening to make sure that they are screened from view out on Grove Street. Gas meters, again, the west side of the building is where we propose to have the meters. Those are the only locations without any type of windows on them. So that's where we propose them. Again, it's all kind of at the mercy of the utility company. But based off of the building design, that's where the meters would go. Gas meters on the westerly side, electric meters on the northern side. One of the other additions on the plan, as Mr. Giannetti said, was a monument sign. The applicant would propose to have a site identification sign located at the entrance on Grove Street. Monument signs for multifamily housing are not specifically permitted in your sign ordinance, so this would require relief. The proposed sign dimensions, again, there's a detail on the top corner here that would be incorporated on the plans. It is approximately, we're proposing it at 4.5 feet tall by 7.5 feet long. The sign area itself is about 2.5 feet by 6 feet or 15 square feet. And it's on top of a 2 foot by 7.5 foot base, which will have a stone veneer to match the building. We're proposing it to be 5 feet back from the setback line on Grove Street. And it'll have landscaping around it, but I think it's an appropriate sign. It's a typical sign that we've used for other RPM development communities. Large enough to identify the site for anybody driving by, but nothing excessively large.
What's it gonna say?
It'll say the name of the community, which is our name, as well as the address and then RPM community.
Is that consistent with the sign ordinance for the downtown core? Did you look at that?
I did, I didn't print out that ordinance. I was trying to get, that was the only one that seemed to have any type of
It is-
area wise.
Actually, I think Jeff and I wrote it a couple of years ago. I have no idea what it says.
So it's good.
If it's a sign like that, I don't remember the name.
I don't either.
No way.
So I was hoping that he'd be smarter than us.
I think typically sign,
Monument has, yeah, and it describes the sign like that, but
a sign,
there's sign facing and then there's monument size and so forth. It's even part of it. The pillars.
You might be better off putting it on the other side of the driveway because of the sight distance.
That's what they have.
we have the transformer over there. If it's viable to swap those, and
Because the height blocks, the view, might block the view of the.
we'll make sure that whatever, we'll do the appropriate site distances from that intersection to make sure that that sign is located out of it. Again, we're proposing it at 5 feet. If it pushes back to 8 or 10 feet to make sure it's out of a site triangle, we'll obviously make sure that we can plat that. And we'll provide that on
One question on that sign, you said it's 5 foot back from the.
we have a 5 foot setback from Brook Street.
So it's at the setback line, same.
It's at the setback line,
Same
yes.
setback as the building.
Correct.
But how visible is that from Bernards Avenue?
From Bernards Avenue, the intention is that you're gonna pull onto Grove Street, you're gonna see the sign as you're approaching it. It's not gonna be visible from Bernards Avenue, it's not like we're putting the sign at the intersection. It's strictly more for identification purposes, because the only other signage is building mounted sign on the front entryway to the building, which if you're not looking for that building or know exactly where it is, you're not gonna see it as you're driving by.
There's no sign on Bernards Avenue frontage or at the corner.
No, it's just at the parking lot entrance to the parking area.
Mr. Shelley, just to be clear. Bob, you have something else on?
No, I just want to make sure where the sign, I wasn't sure if it was 5 foot from the setback line or 5 feet.
5 foot from the property line, we have a 15 square foot sign area, and we'll provide all those, details to make sure that we can provide that.
So I thought I heard you mentioning you additional relief for the sign.
It's kind of, it's
an anomaly because the age zone doesn't give a specific standard, and when you look at the sign standards in the zone ordinance, in the residential portion, the sign ordinance doesn't talk about or permit any standards for a monument sign, therefore, the board would have to approve it.
Right, okay, so it doesn't require additional variance, I think that's what I'm understanding.
It's not permitted, it's not enabled under the ordinance.
Oh, so it's full.
It's
Right.
technically-
It's one of those, it's not permitted, it's not prohibited.
Yeah, it's
so
rated.
I do it as part of the site plan, to the extent we need a variance for it, we'll take a variance for it.
Not enumerated in the sign.
Mhm.
But it's accessory, so it's accessory to a permitted use, so it's before the right.
Correct.
So on the south exposure of the building, basically on Burns, there's the only thing would potentially be there might be an emergency exit or something like that. There'd be nothing, there's no entrances there.
No entrances on the southerly side, Aaron will show you on the elevations, it's just windows for the units.
Quick question, did you mention or not mention, is the sign illuminated or is there a spotlight on it? or-
Sign, again, if there is typically we have uplighting on the signage, unless that was a restriction from a borough ordinance.
Look at our sign ordinance.
If uplighting was prohibited, then we would do some sort of downlight, it's not a backlit LED
No,
sign.
that was really what I was at.
No, that's not that type of sign.
And I would use the language from So Jeff, what we wrote for the area of the Kings Plaza up to 202, but we did have monument language.
Yeah, what we provided for was, small ground mounted signs, maximum height of 6 feet above grade, a maximum depth of 2 feet, and a maximum area of 5 square feet per side. The key more, it's, 12/23/15C. If you want to go for,
Sorry, can you say that again, 12/23?
12-23.15, C in parentheses.
I think we addressed it in the Kings
I think we did.
parking lot.
Actually,
We covered that sign.
Kings was before that.
And then the other one was the monument sign for where like Marini and like that, the monument sign there. We're very quick.
Yeah.
That's obviously right, that doesn't apply.
Commercial.
It doesn't comply, we would try to follow the spirit of the ordinance as best we can. If there's, again, any restrictions on lighting, we would comply with the lighting ordinance the town has. We envision small of like, no backlighting, LED lights, anything like that.
Thank you.
Compliance with the ordinance,
the front of-
lighting requirements.
Correct.
So the front of the building is facing the parking lot, like the terrace or,
I'll let our architect talk about the aesthetics of the building.
okay.
The only other items I had were just some of the waivers noted in the engineering and planning letters. Waiver from ordinance section 9-10.8E. That requires internal roadways be located at least 10 feet from property lines. And parking areas be located at least 10 feet from the property line, or 25 feet from a public street. Again, on the plan, the parking located on the northern side of the building is 5 feet to the property line. And these first two spaces are located just over 20 feet from Brook Street. So technically these spaces, their location requires relief from the borough ordinance.
And that's a design waiver from the design standards, not in H7 zone standard, correct?
Correct.
Now, the fences you said will be made of what?
Solid vinyl.
There's no chain on the fences.
No change.
No, like a privacy.
Yeah, privacy to screen any type of headlights. Again, relief is required from ordinance section 14-2.6, for the steep slope ordinance. Again, there was no changes in the steep slope ordinance as part of the, AH7 zoning district. And there is a very small portion, about 2,000 square feet, located adjacent to the existing garage that's on the side of the property here. That would be disturbed as part of demolition. If you look at the site conditions, pretty clearly that in order to build that garage, they needed to flatten a portion of the site out, which created this steep slope. So, you know, it's located along this westerly property line. The area right now, it's just a couple feet between the garage and the property line. It's lawn with some evergreen trees in it. So it appears to be a kind of a man-made area that the disturbance would be located within. Just for the record, to make it clear, again, it's a 2,150 square foot area behind the existing garage and the existing retaining wall that exceeds the 15% slope. 250 square feet of disturbance is within the 15 to 25% sloped area. 1,075 square feet is disturbed within the 25 to 30% sloped area. And then 825 square feet within 30% or greater area. And again, it's sloped lawn with some evergreen trees. It's not a wooded area in that location.
The proposed sidewalk. Bob, is that consistent with the current vision of what's going on with engineering for that area?
We have not been doing the engineering, but I think there's a 4-foot sidewalk proposed along the north side of Berners Avenue. Is that correct? And then
Yeah, the 4-foot sidewalk along the north side of Berners and going up Grove Street. Mr. Brentley called out in his letter to do a 2-foot grass strip beyond the curb line, which we agreed to comply with.
so that would be consistent with what was proposed. I think it's to be on the west side coming down from Pine. And so we'd be a tie into that portion of the sidewalk on Berners Avenue. there's no plans for sidewalk on Grove, but, you know, they will need it from the parking lot and their exit in the building.
Yeah, thank you.
So you decided, guys, you decided that the sidewalk would be on the north side of Bernards Avenue, not on the south side of Bernards Avenue, correct? There's no sidewalk there.
I think the borough might be leaning that way, but
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
personal opinion,
Yeah,
No, I just, that's,
especially if we have development going that's gonna help
I'm just,
get it there. I'm only speaking for myself, though. It's my personal opinion.
okay.
The only other item noted, Mr. Brightly's letter was about, potential design waiver for lighting standards. For 0.3 foot candles, exceeding, on the property line. We can make some modifications to the house shields and the lighting fixtures to ensure that we don't have a spillage exceeding that 0.3 foot candles, so no waiver is requested, we'll comply with that. And you had an opportunity to review, Mr. Brightly's review letter dated August 31st, 2023. Yes, I did. And within that review letter, there's some comments we wanted to, address outside of what we already testified to. Yeah, I think for the most part, we would agree to comply with the comments in Mr. Brightly's letter. He did have some in here that were just kind of, notifying of some discrepancies, one of them, which was comment B9, about some potential concerns regarding survey for the adjacent property, that conflicts with the information shown on our survey, in relation to the location of where this building actually is. Our survey shows that building is about 3.5 feet from our property line. The survey that Mr. Brightly has from about 10 years ago shows that that building is about 9.5 feet away. Our surveyors have touched base with the surveyor that prepared that plan to try to come up with an explanation for how they're off by 6 feet. So they're coordinating with each other right now, and we'll provide Mr. Brightly with any updates or resolution to that discrepancy to ensure that it is resolved.
The plan B, if that building is really on the property line, is that creating structural issues between the wall or the building itself?
No, so right now the issue is that the building is, let's just say the building exists, the building is where it is. Between the time that 2012 survey was done and when we completed our survey, a retaining wall was built that I'm sure they believe it's on their property, and from our survey, the retaining wall is on our property. So it does create an issue where we have proposed improvements that are gonna be within 5 feet of the property line, so that there's potential for a conflict with that retaining wall. Again, if we could work together and incorporate the purpose of that wall into the redesign of the wall that we are proposing along that property line, we'd be happy to try to work that out from an engineering standpoint, but, you know.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's always fun.
But don't you have the drainage, don't you have the large drainage?
There's a drainage pipe that runs through there as well, so again, we're talking about a situation where we're hopeful that we can connect to a drain pipe that's on their
But it's
property.
there too. It runs
So
along there.
there's a lot of kind of moving parts along that
Okay.
property line, but we'll
Yeah.
ensure that the final construction means and methods are all documented, Mr. Bradley has review, and that any type of, encroachment is fully vetted and removed if necessary.
And I reached out to Jack Pigeon also, because I believe the town may own the lot now, is that correct?
yes,
Yeah, so inquired as part of that transaction, if the town got a survey as well, that maybe showed the same thing that our survey shows.
Yeah, I'm sure Jack.
Yeah, so I reached out to him and I'll coordinate that from as well.
On your lighting plan, you've got a couple of lights on the northern, stanchions on the northern side.
Yes,
And you only have one height of a wall, which is 6 feet in the middle. So now, if you have those lights stand through that solar where I think are they the ones that are 16 feet? So they're like 25 feet above the adjacent property.
Mhm.
And can you see the light source in the adjacent property?
The lights will have house side shields so that there is no glow in
Outside
the back
shields,
there.
can you see the light source?
Will you see the light source? It's the lighting,
Because the higher you get, the easier it is to see those.
see underneath it.
Yeah, especially if it's the inclement weather, inclement weather, you're gonna see a lot of lights.
If it's on top of a 10-foot wall.
That's a fair comment. The lighting analysis doesn't show that, but physically what you see if you're kind of looking up from underneath it. One of the changes we're contemplating is making the entire parking area forced pavement, which would eliminate the need for the kind of water quality structures that we have in the back of the site. And if we can remove those water quality systems from these landscaped areas, that allows the opportunity to pull those light poles off the property line.
But you can't, because you're impervious, you, no infiltration.
So it would be a pervious pavement system that has under drains below it. Pervious pavement is for your water quality. We would have storage below the surface.
Running into the storage.
Yes. But instead of, we would address water quality through pervious pavement versus,
Can you reduce the height of the wall?
reduce the height of the wall. No, not with that, based off of the grades on the site and the elevations that we need to get into, handicap accessibility there. The wall is the height that it's gonna have to be at.
So, but those light fixtures are gonna be added by the height of the wall. So if the wall is 10 feet high, you have a.
From the perspective of the adjacent property owner, yes.
Right, so the intention would be that instead of the light poles being located right on that property line, if we're able to pull them off closer to 15 feet off that property line, and if there's anything we could do with the heights too, to get them low enough to get the coverage that we need. Again, we're happy to push those lights as low as we can, and get them as far away from the property line as we can in order to, and still comply with the lighting requirements.
You're worried about light pollution to the properties to the north?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it look like from the perspective of the property owner, the adjacent property owner?
Bob had a comment in here about the possibility of using bollards.
Right, so we have some building mounted lights along the northern face of the building. We have some final window locations and different architectural features that will coordinate if it's not viable to light this part of the parking lot through building mounted lights, just due to too many conflicts. Then we would use an alternate source of lighting, like a lit bollard situation, along those parking spaces. But at the end of the day, we'll make sure that the parking design fully complies with the lighting ordinance. Right now we have it using the building mounted lights, but there may be some conflicts with some of the windows there as the architectural plans are finalized.
And you may need bollards anywhere to protect your building from parking, I mean. Just drive into your building, well.
It's always the situation where it's how close is too close for parking to the building, we have landscaping in that area between buildings.
Just
but
a
yeah,
thought, you may end up having to put them in anyway.
And didn't we discuss last time it would be a metal guardrail separating?
That's, the guardrails on the northern side between the parking spaces and the retaining wall.
So we just talked about having a guardrail for just the purpose of protecting the building, along the building as well.
No, there would be no guardrail proposed.
So you can't walk
In
in
front
front
of
space into the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
A lot of times you end up with concrete wheel stops, but they would just become a maintenance issue. But it's something that we'll investigate to make sure that they're comfortable with.
The comment was whether you were trying to light the sidewalk with those building mounted lights, because you also have the parking lot.
Right, we need a combination of the pole mounted and the building mounted lights to get the coverage to cover the entire parking lot. We're happy to kind of continue to try to massage the parking layout to make sure that we get adequate coverage while not, ensuring that we don't have any conflicts.
Yeah, you don't want those above the window.
Exactly, yeah.
I believe there's also a comment, about, the 10x10, transformer pad or the pad for the ground mounted transformer.
Right, so, as I said, we have And there's one front island between the parking spaces and Grove Street, we're gonna have the proposed monument sign. In the other island area, in the northeast corner is where there will be a transformer for the development. Again, standard is about a 10 by 10 pad. It would be going that location and it would be adequately screened as allowed by private companies.
And the pole will go there too, right?
Yeah, there would be a rider pole as well.
Because it's high tension coming down to the transformer.
Yeah, now they make you put in new poles for everything you want to do, so most likely there'd be a riser pole going down to the.
I'm just saying it's high tension wires coming to a transformer, it's. Whatever it'll be.
And other than a few other architectural comments in Mr. Brightly's review letter that our architect will address, can you comply with the other technical requirements within his review letter?
Yes.
Mr. Brightly, if there's any other questions regarding the review letter before we go, let's go to Mr. Zabo's review letter.
Yeah, if you could go to John's letter, we'll go through it.
Sure.
Few pages long, I just kind of want to make sure I have any other questions.
Yeah. Okay. And you had an opportunity to review, Mr. Zabo's review letter dated November 15th, 2023.
Yes, I did.
We've testified as to the design waivers. We talked about some of the conditions, of the prior approval. Now, again, those were kind of conditions with a different layout, and we kind of adjusted the layout a little bit, to address other comments. And I apologize, I feel like I'm sitting down or should be standing up. I'm not using the format. Can you just kind of talk about those conditions and which ones will either seek relief from or which ones we can comply with?
Sure. So again, the general comment section of Mr. Zabo's letter on page 5. Condition 7 was about a steep slope analysis, which I touched on in my testimony that we would require relief from that. Condition 9 was regarding compliance with lighting requirements. Again, testimony as we would agree to comply with all the lighting standards, no relief would be needed from that.
I guess with the condition 7, I guess you're saying you're with the testimony you provided, you'll provide an analysis.
Yes.
Identify that.
Correct. We'll quantify that on the plans to document the testimony to match about the disturbance of the slope. Condition 12, a circulation plan, as we discussed about truck turning movement for the trash vehicle. We will provide a turning template that shows the turning movements of a trash truck, as well as the signage and demarcation of those visitor parking spaces. Condition 13 was a requirement to maximize landscaping between the retaining walls and the adjacent residential dwelling to the north. Again, as we testified, that with the implementation of a guardrail in the 3-foot space between the curb and the property line, there is an ability to create additional maybe head screening for the lights. So that's why we've swapped out the previously proposed 4-foot aluminum fence with a solid vinyl fence to ensure that there is no type of light disturbance encroaching onto the adjacent property.
And with this revised parking layout with parking on both sides, does that further shrink the area from the prior plan, or is it roughly the same size?
It's roughly the same size. The retaining wall is in the same location. The parking is a little bit further from the property line so that we can fit in that guardrail. As well as there was a prior relief noted about parking spaces that were within 10 feet of the building, which this updated layout plan eliminated that potential waiver. But again, the retaining walls in the same location. In order to be able to provide the 39 spaces as required, as well as the 22 units on this property, the retaining wall has got to be installed on that property line, or just inside the property on our side, which does not permit additional landscaping.
Is there anything that can be done on the other side, on the further north side of that wall to screen it from the neighbors?
And
Through an easement or through
anything on the northern side of that wall would be on the neighbor's property. Again, it's not something that we could propose that we would make improvements on their property, but it's,
And you don't have any topography on the north of the property line.
no, we did not survey the neighbor's property. That's one of the comments on, we have topography along the property line up to the fence line that's currently installed there.
Because that would affect the height of the wall. The
Yeah.
impact of the wall. On the north side.
On the other side of the wall, correct? Yeah, the wall is gonna change height because property slopes to the west, it goes down to the west, so that wall.
As the wall gets further back, the wall gets
is
higher.
higher. Yeah, right.
It's 11 foot at that corner, 6 foot, about midnight.
Yeah, in the back corner is where it's the highest point. Mr. Zabo's letter notes condition 18 was about, putting electric and gas meters on the westerly side of the building. Again, the testimony is that gas meters will remain on the westerly side, but the electric meters are gonna be located on the northerly side. Again, Aaron will show you on the architectural elevations, how they'll be located, and then we'll provide some screening for them as well. Condition 78 about the borough's sign ordinance, again, provide a testimony regarding the need for potential relief for a monument sign for this multifamily development. And then condition 85 was about a sidewalk easement on Grove Street, which we would agree to comply with.
All right, what about the zoning section? You went right to page 5, and maybe it's covered somewhere else, but page 4, zoning the 3 points that.
Yeah, well, I guess we could address that. I think the other saying that we addressed to Mr. Brightly's,
That may be the case.
Yeah, the same comments, it's about the parking being 5 feet under the property line and then 20 feet to Grove Street. And then we've agreed to eliminate the potential waiver for the lighting spillage onto the adjacent property.
I guess on page 6, comment 3, and I guess Mr. J will maybe clarify, you noted that the overhead connection to the site will require munis exception.
If you're connecting to an overhead across the street or pole down to the transformer, so in my experience, that's usually require a munis exception, but, open to this,
That's not something that we've encountered before, but again, if it's Mr. Zavo's.
I'll defer to Mr. Brightly and to Shelley on, because they work with RFS and I do too. I've always had engineers say that's a munis exception, but,
Did we just have a request that
Very
came
similar
in?
case where,
Yeah,
our size requires the utilities to be installed underground.
right.
This is, overhead to get to underground.
it should be the basis for any exception.
We don't want them opening up Grove Street, because that was just, any opening in there if we need any, we're gonna need to do an infrared repair on it for the road opening line.
It's interesting because they don't actually differentiate between conventional power and high tension. This is gonna be a pole with high tension wires running over the street, right? Down to the pad, and then everything else is underground, the conventional,
So if you put the pole in the right of way, then it doesn't, and then you make the connection to the pole.
There's no overhead on going top building, so. I don't believe you have room to put that pole in the right of way here.
No, the sidewalk ends up going over the right of way line.
the Grove sidewalk.
Yeah, but with the two,
It wasn't my intention to create an issue, it's merely pointing out so we can get encompassed within any action to the board. That's all, so we don't get into a problem later like we did.
Like we just did, I mean.
Yeah, we got approved it.
Correct, so
I'm avoiding it.
I'm trying to avoid that.
it's probably enough of a
But that
area that we could request.
Yeah, I guess we say to the extent required.
That's why I didn't want the board to look at me and say, why didn't you talk about this when we did it for the
Sure.
subdivision? So I wanted, we're gonna be at least consistent.
While we're on that, can I ask a question regarding that transformer?
Is that about the size you think you're gonna need? The scale's about 10 by 10.
Yeah, so typically, PCG transformer boxes that we need to bring out and put stone are 10 by 10. The transformers themselves end up getting set on a prefab pad that's maybe 8 by 8, but usually it's a stone box that's 10 by 10 and then it gets scaled down. I don't want to show a 6 by 6 transformer and have it be bigger than what it is, but
You mentioned screening it. If we eliminate those infiltration devices that you had in that island, there's a room, remove that,
yes,
because you're, I don't know, maybe a foot off the right way with that transformer now. There is a room to screen.
yep. This area up here currently has a water quality device as well as the transformer. That water quality device is now encompassed in the porous pavement. Instead, that transformer can shift back further into the site, allowing a better screening opportunity up along the frontage. We would have no issues with that.
Yeah.
And the other items in Mr. Zabel's letter about landscaping and swapping different species, we have no issues with. Or have no issues complying with any of the other recommendations in the letter.
And I know we've covered this in laying out some of those conditions is really merely to document that if we're going to modify the preliminary, then the conditions will also be modified as a result, so that they have to be consistent. Right. Why I point that out. And whatever conditions are not being modified, I would suggest and recommend that be incorporated again into any final resolution that is preliminary final. I just want to be with the board to be aware of the yin yang of playing with some of these conditions.
Do you know where the existing pole on the east side of Grove Street is that you're intending to connect to? This goes to the question of where should the sign be versus where should the transformer be?
The pole is right in the top corner. That's why it's located in this area.
That's,
Yes.
that's a rationale for putting it there. Gotcha.
But again, as
That's why.
requested about the sign, we'll make sure that the sign, if it needs to shift back to be out of any type of side triangle, we'll make sure to reflect that.
We probably went over this, I don't know, was it 2 years ago?
Feels like years.
The fire hydrants. Where, are they on Grove Street or Bernardsville or both? The existing fire hydrants in relation to the building.
There's a fire hydrant at the intersection of Brook and Bernards. Right there. Let's see if I see any other ones that are on the survey. That's the only one that I have. On that corner, there may be, obviously there would be more further up Grove Street, but there's at least the one in close proximity there.
We thought to have, fire chief, weigh in on this design.
I see he was sent the plans on, November 8th. Bureau of Fire Prevention.
And yet they said that they didn't have any comments.
So they think there's enough water coming to the hydrant system there to,
They didn't opine on that, they just said they didn't have any comments.
And then they usually look at the utility lines and how they affect firefighting.
And it's all in a direct presentation of Mr. Shelley. Mr. Bradley, if you have further questions, so.
I don't have any other questions, just one comment though, the area that you're proposing, you talked about the vacation of that triangle, portion, yeah. So that'll require council approval, it's kind of a useless triangle as part of the right of way of Berners Avenue, so we previously recommended that be vacated, and I was under the impression that the borough owned the property on the other side of the street, and the condo that units, but I'm not sure at this point, that's the case.
Sounds like we need to get the surveys right
Well, that,
first and then talk to it.
yeah, that's true. I was trying to find information on that 24-inch pipe that runs along the property line. And that's, you know, in front of that old survey. Yes, that needs to get resolved for sure.
So do you need that judgment from the council prior to approval?
I don't believe so. It's,
Before we go with the resolution?
I think it was part of the original deployment, if I remember.
Yeah, the plan called for right away vacation in the front there. And then again, as the roadway relining was incorporated into the set of plans, that once that vacation was kind of further documented on these plans, but yeah, it would require council vote.
Currently, this looks like the corner of the road, maybe cut the property line, I'm not sure, a lot of them are on the other side of the street, so it would be worthwhile having at least a triangle for sight distance there, on that corner, right at, on the bottom area, so that little triangle may need to modify. Point out that it's kind of an open item.
Yep.
So,
I mean, I presume that could be addressed as part of the developer agreement too, with the town, or whether they.
yeah, I'm in the process of putting a letter to the borough attorney with a marked up copy of this plan. And I'll get that off to them. But I mean, you need that to start construction, because the building is currently over the existing, right,
Yeah.
it's into that triangle.
Any other questions of Mr. Shelley before we move on to the architect?
Well, I have to open it to the questions. Does anyone in the public have a question for this witness? If so, please let us know. Looks like no, okay. We've been asking questions, so I think we're okay. So you have like 2 minutes for the next witness.
Yeah, I'll move to extend till 11. If someone's here.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, I was gonna get the next witness. Witnesses have to be up.
Yeah, they just have to be, let's get her sworn in.
Oh, they have to be up.
Yeah, I think she has to start testifying to just gender.
I'm very impressed.
It saved the thought chat.
For about another 90 seconds.
Name of business address correctly.
First name is Aaron, last name Como, business is Inglace Architecture and Engineering. And the address is 632 Conklin Ave, Cedar Grove, New Jersey.
Ms. Plum, if you could just provide for the board your, oh, sorry.
No, it's like, you swear for the testimony about providing the truth, won't be done, but if you're going, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Ms. Plum, will you just provide for the board your experience, qualifications, and licenses in the field of architecture?
I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I'm an associate at Inglace Architecture and Engineering, and I've been doing this for over 13 years.
And your license remains current and good standing?
Yes.
And you've been accepted as an expert before other boards in the field of architecture?
Yes.
And you were,
And this one a year ago. So.
and you previously testified before this board in the preliminary application were accepted as an expert. And that's the board accept Ms. Plum as an expert in the field of architecture.
Thank you. I'm just gonna pull up my
We need to mark anything.
Yeah, and I guess, Ms. Plum, did you or someone in your direction prepare any exhibits in connection with tonight's meeting?
Yes. We have a revised ground floor plan showing the utility room. I'm gonna color it.
And the location of this utility room is north, where is it? Yeah. Northwest corner.
So, I can just, just dive in.
Yes, I guess starting with, to the extent you're just using floor plans that were submitted as part of the application, I don't know if we need to mark those as exhibits or if you know.
I was just gonna have to receive what was it already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Part of the-
And then when you move to something that's a new, exhibit or, rendering of elevations, just will identify and we'll mark that. So maybe just using, the floor plan you've identified as A100, just describe, what this sheet is and what's on the plan.
Okay. So this is the ground floor plan that was submitted as part of the application. I'm gonna call out a couple changes from the previous design, compared to this one. As Kevin mentioned, the building moved closer to Bernards Ave. The entrance to the building is now at the rear side facing the parking area, all the spots back here. The left side of the building over here, we were talking about the utility room. I have an exhibit prepared to show you a revised location for that room. Over here, this is where we were proposing the gas meters. And then the rest of the ground floor has units. There's an egress stair here that dumps you out onto Grove Street. Units fronting Bernards Ave. There's a common laundry room. Another egress stair, and then a trash compactor room that has trash compaction as well as a chute for recyclables as well.
You said there's an egress there? Egress, you mean a stairwell or?
Yeah, there's a stair here and a stair here.
Right, but the one that you're pointing to now
outside.
gets to the
That
outside.
gets you to the outside.
So it's actually egress. The other one's just a stairwell. Okay.
Does that coincide with the sidewalk? With,
Yes.
Mhm. The one that goes to Grove?
yeah,
Yes. I can go to I'll keep going through these plans and then we can talk about the utility room. So the bottom plan on sheet A110 is the second floor plan, and it's showing units going around the perimeter of the building. Over here, there's a trash room and recycling room, which has a chute for recyclables as well as trash. Common laundry room at the other side of the stair core. And then there's a small outdoor terrace directly over the main entrance of the building. And then the floor plan above is actually the roof plan. One of the stairs goes up to the roof for access for maintenance. And then I'm gonna pull up our first exhibit.
So now, is there an elevator?
There's no.
No.
here.
The second floor access is carried up through the stairs. Moving in and moving out.
Second, yeah, you have to go to the stairs. Yeah. So this is a new exhibit that wasn't submitted as part of the application.
Right, it would be A3, could you please identify that on a sheet?
Yeah. We can call this alternate utility room plan.
And the date is?
Date is it's today's date, actually, 11/16. So what this plan shows is the updated location of the utility room that we're proposing, that's in red here. This front room, let me zoom in because it's a little small. I'm trying to figure out how to do it. So we're showing the electric room with the electric meters right here. There's gonna be a canopy overhang at this recess to help shield the meters. As well as there's gonna be, this plan doesn't show it, but there's gonna be plantings in front of the meters here. We just need to allow 3 feet between the meters and whatever shrubs end up going there, which we do have the clearance for. Behind the electric room is the water utility room where Kevin mentioned the backflow preventer will be located, so we can avoid having to provide a hot box on the site. And then directly next to this is the trash room and a recycling room with access to the outside to get the dumpsters to the pickup area.
Will be a door access to the trash room from the inside?
Yeah, we didn't show it, but yeah, there would be one right in the middle. And then over on
So that would be instead of the utility room and the trash room on the original plan.
yes, correct.
You don't have both. You don't have two, you just have one,
Two.
two rooms.
Oh, we just had one, yeah, we relocated it. And
The
then,
next thing is the trash room, not next to the entrance, right, which is where you had it before.
right, yes, it's not actually the entrance. So this is the revised lobby, which is actually shifted over towards Grove Street, maybe by like 20 feet, but it's generally in the same location. We have, excuse me, mailboxes and a package room. And then here, where there previously was a utility room, is a residential unit.
I'm sorry, what's there? Another apartment?
Apartment, yeah. With the gas meters, gas meters located on the western wall here. And again, this is subject to the utility company's requests or desires, but this is where we would like to propose them. And anyone has any questions on the plans, I'll go to the other.
Is it gas going to the units or is it gas? Is that the intent, gas to be distributed? I mean, I guess it's a question, but your expectation is to have gas available in each of the units?
Yes.
Have you thought about putting the trash more in the middle, so people don't have to haul it equally, haul it east and west?
Trash chute, right?
This one is on the east side.
Yeah, you mean move it more like
West side,
here. I think we could probably,
so it just makes it easier.
we could look and see if we can locate it equidistant.
Does the alternate plan maintain the trash chute at the second story level?
Yes, yeah,
So
same idea, there'd be two chutes, one for recycling and one for trash at the second floor.
trash goes into the trash room to the left of the entrance
Yes.
room,
Yes,
and it goes into what, bins there?
it goes into a 2-yard dumpster, oh, it goes into the compactor, which compacts it into a 2-yard dumpster that's on rollers, and then it goes.
And then that's gotta get pushed all the way over.
Rolled out into the enclosure for pickup. So yes, if we were able to shift it over, equidistant, it would be a little closer to that.
So the cars are all parked there. How do you get it out into the driveway?
Go outside.
I guess, huh?
Yeah, you go, yeah, I have a pointer. You go, down the sidewalk here into the side of the, side entry of the enclosure.
Well, it was before, the trash room used to be where the entrance is. So yeah, it was closer to the dumpster, or whatever that area.
Yeah.
Why did we change it? Where it was?
Well, they moved the utility room.
Right.
And then they dragged along with it the trash room.
One of the main reasons we need to move the utility room, previously the water room was all the way in the back of the building. What you end up with is a really long water service that'll go from Grove Street through the site to connect to that back water room, which typically anything over a certain distance, 100 feet, requires a hot box, and there's not room for a giant stainless steel ball sitting on top of it. So, and they all kind of need to move in a cluster, like the utility rooms need to move together. You see like the shape of the two utility rooms and the trash compactor roughly at kind of the same kind of set aside as one of these units, so they've got to move and shift together.
It's more efficient. I mean, we can look at maybe taking this block and swapping, like pushing this apartment towards Grove and see if, you know, that helps. As long as we're within the limit of the hot box range.
The main answer is a move to avoid having to put that hot box in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pull up the second exhibit we have, which is a few colored elevations. This is called colored elevation with today's date 11/16/23.
Exhibit A4?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, what was the title of it again? I'm sorry.
Just colored elevation.
Colored elevation. And the date again is today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So the material palette is generally the same as what we proposed in the previous iteration. What you're seeing here, this elevation here is what fronts Bernard Ave. We're proposing a mix of stone veneer, fiber cement siding, metal standing seam roof, and a variety of colors that complement each other. And then up top here, we're showing the east elevation. This is that doorway out of that egress stair onto Grove Street. And then the west elevation. And this is what was this is what was submitted as part of the application. So what you see here in this gray area was the previous location of the utility room, which was a one-story portion of the building. In the updated design, this would be a two-story portion. There'd be units on top of each other there. So we would end up eliminating this little railing detail that we have at that second floor.
So the dormers are just decorative, right?
Dormers are just decorative, that's correct.
Why is the roof height, that's pretty substantial roof height?
With the mechanical behind there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the roof height. This is a kind of like a fake roof. Looks real from the street, but behind it, there's a parapet wall and a flat roof for hiding mechanical systems.
Just one comment, a building of this magnitude, you know, in terms of number of units, I don't understand why there's not an elevator. Like, really don't. I mean, if it was 6 units but when you get up to this volume of people. And, yeah, okay, it might be out of service or whatever, but you need an elevator.
I guess, Ms. Pooh, in your experience with a 2-story, 22-unit affordable development, are you typically gonna have an elevator? Is it uncommon to have?
It's not uncommon. It's also not required by code to have an elevator, so we're complying with building code. I guess it could be considered an amenity if we do provide it. If the developer chooses to provide it in the building, but we're not violating any type of code by now.
Does the elevator have to be stretcher compliant?
Yes.
It makes the elevator bigger.
Yeah, good.
Well, think about the point you'll have again, and a stretcher down that stairs with a sharp bend.
Yeah, that's like, didn't even think about the
Okay, that
safety
happens,
aspect.
move it in a couch.
Yeah.
In the building on, Minebrook, that had an elevator, didn't it?
Yes.
And was that about the same occupancy? I don't remember how many units. were.
That had a few more, but the difference between that building and this one, it had a full parking level at the ground floor. So it was needed for better
More storage.
circulation from that parking area up into the building.
Still. Don't forget, we need the people to actually get these units, basically, and they're actually fairly picky, you know. I know there's oversubscribed and so forth, but I've seen them where I'm not gonna go there. You know, and you're trying to create a really nice place. But
Circulation from that parking area.
I just can't,
Some of these are 3 bedrooms, right?
yeah, it's like,
Pulling the groceries up the stairs,
I just don't think it's feasible. I know I'm not
Yeah.
disagreeing with you.
That's okay.
I know.
you understand the cost constraints.
Either a combination of cost and space.
And this particular site, everything was very, very tight, so every inch counts, at least in this particular design, so yeah. If we provide an elevator, we'll be taking space away from something else, but. I know, I understand it's a concern.
Yeah, I mean, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, I would, but I don't know, it would affect the unit count, probably. Yeah. And that would affect the agreement with fair share and the housing plan and everything that's going to be established with the splits. So it can probably matter.
Like on the plan you have that, the one that was before this modified one. You couldn't take it out of the trash room and the package room, but. Right, the entrance.
Yeah, you need to look at it. Yeah, you wanna have the least impact in terms of picking room size or whatever. But that doesn't mean you can't look at it. You can just fit stuff in there. I don't know, you're gonna need old clearances and so forth. Just.
Take it out of the lawn. Package room.
Yeah, great. Okay, your pause, right? So
Yeah.
any questions from our professionals? Okay, any questions to this witness from the public?
Aaron, we got this one across here.
Just ask a question.
Just one. Yeah, the retaining wall, what is that? What's the sort of, is there any veneer or like, what does that look like from the northern property side?
I think, so the retaining wall would be a segmental block wall, that's typical, but landscape wall would be a stone wall. There will be details that were provided, the keystone is a typical type of one that we use, but it's a finished stone facade.
No,
Excuse me. On wall that height, do you have a pattern?
Yeah, there will be a pattern on the wall.
Is that reflected on the plan?
Yes, there's like a 1.5 degree pattern on the wall, final specification.
Yeah, what's it back?
Angle, as you start stacking the blocks, they start kind of slightly angling.
is that shown in anything?
The site plans have a detail for the retaining wall. That's usually, we usually call it out as a keystone wall or Depot, but Keystone's a brand that's like, yeah, it's not a Home Depot, it's a landscape wall. The little blocks we use is stagnant.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more, and maybe, I didn't see on the parking, is that a gated parking?
No,
How do you control, how do you keep parking available for your residents and not let other people who want to park there?
that would be managed by property management. If someone's parking there that's not permitted, they can always, typically they don't do assigned parking spaces or,
Decals?
that's typically not how they operate a site. If there's an issue with site and parking, they go to a system like that where they.
Parking's at a premium there, so, yeah.
So if they ran into an instance where people who don't live in the community were parking in their parking lot, they would start implementing different types of measures.
Is there a manager's office in this building, the White House building managed from on-site or off-site?
There's no office in this building, is there gonna be?
There's,
Oh, there's, okay.
if you recall, so this is, even though it's 3 site plans, it's one project between Minebrook, Mount Airy, and 6th Street Bernard. So the expectation is that the Minebrook, which is the biggest one, will have a super's unit, manager's unit, and he would be responsible, or she, responsible for the managing the 3 sites.
There are a couple things that I wanted to clarify. with the unit mix, there were a couple different references in some of the letters. I just wanted to put on the record the unit mix of this building. It's 22 units total. There's 6 1-bedrooms, 13 2-bedrooms, and 3 3-bedrooms.
Provide those again, just.
Yeah, sure. There's 6 1-bedrooms, 13 2-bedrooms, and 3 3-bedrooms.
One of these guys,
I believe it was,
Probably in here.
I think they might have been covered here. And then the other item that was not discussed yet was the building mounted sign that we have on our elevations.
No, it's, yeah.
Well, no, it probably makes it use better, right? Because it used to be forcing.
It goes down, but the overall number does not change.
It doesn't make it worse.
Does not make it.
To the left of the main entrance here, we're proposing just a building mounted sign to correspond to the monument sign. We don't have any building name yet, but we're gonna propose aluminum lettering with 1-inch standoffs mounted onto the aluminum back panel, and the colors would coordinate with the material palette of the building. There were no notes on the elevation, so I just wanted to put that on the record as well.
Confused by the shadow boxes here. Maybe it's just my eye and the right panel, there's only shadow boxes on. Yes, so if you go to the windows left or right, left, 1, 2, 3, the shadow boxes there, the not shadow boxes, under.
Here. Oh, yeah, yeah, we can add the trim detail there.
No, I'm talking about the gray, I'm assuming that's the painted shadow box, huh?
Oh, this thing? That's a vent, that's a vent. But to keep the look consistent, we can add the trim detail, it just wouldn't have the vent.
Anyone who had access to that room area where is the door locked on the second floor, so that only
No, that would be an amenity for the tenants, so everyone could have access to it.
And what is the proposal for the use of the room?
It's
There's
a small.
over the door.
No, I'm just asking.
You're asking on the roof, not the second floor.
Oh, I'm sorry, that'll be locked, that's only for maintenance. I thought you were talking about.
And it's accessible to the stairwells? I guess.
Yes, there's
They're not gonna pull ladder down.
there's one stair here that goes all the way up to the roof for maintenance access.
And then my other question is just to have your comment on the HVAC suggestion that you vary the siding colors for your sections of the building. What is your?
Let me pull up the comment. I was slightly confused about the comment. In my opinion, the elevations shown here do vary, the colors, but maybe historic was talking about changing the colors that we have, like to, we'd be open to that. Yeah, to clarify, yeah.
So you also said on the roofs would be, ready for solar panels, not have solar panels on it, but it will be wired. So the solar panels will be installed at a later date.
I don't think we said that, unless.
No,
I remember the conversation. But
I
it may not have
think-
been this.
I think it was, my other application on my,
That one was,
Oh, next to the firehouse?
and they rented to the firehouse. That one was solar ready, or could withstand, solar, but solar wouldn't propose. I don't know with respect to this one, if it's designed to withstand solar.
We're not.
I thought we talked about it and it wasn't cost effective, given that this is.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I think to that point on the elevator, in addition to the mechanics architecturally, the cost issue, not just the cost of installing it, but the operations and maintenance. Normally with projects, cost is not necessarily a consideration, but in this case, with 100% affordable, where they're seeking low-income housing tax credit and all this different subsidy, when RPM applied, for its funding from the HMFA last year, much different environment with respect to interest rates and costs. And not only this project, I can tell you a lot of other projects, so these low income tax credit projects are getting tighter and tighter, just given the interest rate and the environment we're in. So anything that's gonna be adding additional costs like that, not just cost to install, but operational, makes the project very difficult.
Yeah, okay. That's the counterbalancing argument, but still, look at it. In terms of putting an elevator in, that's what, it's really not. It's not a good situation when you have that building with that many units with no elevator. So, run the numbers, figure out where you put it. Figure it out. I know it's tight, but still, figure it out. You can still go ahead and just like, well, there is one. I'm just saying, it'd be a better product and. Hell, supervisor, you might even like the elevator, I don't know. But it's a problem with that many units. It's not a 6 unit property. It's not even 12, that's a lot of units. That's a lot of bedrooms. It's a lot of furniture. Driving in, up and down the staircase. Granted, it's just a second floor. But you're
I rate up 3 floors in my job. Because I was younger, it was three floors that I bring up. I guess the point being,
you're not gonna promise anything. All I want you to do is look at
sure,
it.
understood.
Okay?
Understood.
Just see it. It would make a better product.
Would a potential stipulation or condition be, applicant will make a good faith best effort to install an elevator?
Whose favorite wording is that?
Yeah, we're not in favor of good faith effort.
Oh, bad faith effort?
They don't come back, we can have a test that.
What about, I understand, it's cutting it, reducing the requirements to make room for it. And then evaluate and finance it when you build the building. We can't reduce the requirement. No, I'm just.
Well, I would say,
Well, that's the number size.
The numbers.
There are minimum. They do have minimum size.
$680.
There is a number.
You can take it out of the lot.
yeah,
Just try. It'll be a better project. It'll be a better product.
I don't dispute that. I'm just trying to figure out how to word that condition, because
I don't want to even word it. I'm just saying, you're here.
We hear it.
Professionals.
We hear
You'd end up with a better product. You do trade-offs all the time. Just see. That's what I'm asking for, is that, yes, time is money, and it'll take time to investigate, creative alternatives. And I know I said it was, offhand, but, okay, it could be a make-ready elevator. You get the space, but you don't put the elevator in there. You could even consider that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And also, about the novel. Of course. All right, not any more questions?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Amenity space, the rooftop on the second floor. That plan shows lighting.
My plan didn't, but there's some wall sconces on there.
Any hours on that?
I think.
We can make, if there's a certain. I guess if there's a certain standard or lighting requirement.
I'm asking the board, I think we had that on another.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're talking about the lighting or access to the.
Lighting and the access, when is it used?
Okay, the lighting would be on a photo cell, and then access would probably be dusk to dawn kind of, and they would have control hours.
You don't want to go out there.
No.
We have a similar situation on Claremont, Joe Ross's project. Rooftop amenities and for hours on.
Well, contract 10:30, and I thought it was 10.
But
Are you contemplating any restrictions on electric bikes and electric scooters?
Can't carry it.
Storing and special charges. I know, because in the other project on the firehouse, I think you said there would be at least.
Well, no, I think the environmental commission requested we put in chargers for electrical bikes, and the fire department said, no, we don't want those, they're a fire hazard.
If you look on what's going on in New York. And there's a lot of electric bikes there and a lot of fires.
Yeah.
And I don't. Take care of the cars by not having to charge under the roof. But electric bikes are a real problem. And what I understand is that there's so many of these bikes that are batteries, kind of UL certificates on them. That people don't even know that they have a dangerous battery.
It's only gonna become a term potentially in insurance policies. And you look at it that way because it'll get publicity.
Yeah. I don't know for sure.
It's not just your project.
Yeah.
It's something we ask everybody.
And there, like you said, there was precedent next to that, for us, next to the firehouse, where originally the room was set, like, here's the bike charging room. And I was like, no, that's, there's other issues that are important, but. It's something to think about. Because now they're, whatever we come up with, they're over here. All right.
Well, typically, it's a good idea.
You're a landlord. I think we need a motion to extend.
How many more witnesses do we have?
This is our last witness.
Right, so why don't we think?
I think we want to take a few minutes. I think we should extend for half an hour.
Okay, I'll make a motion to extend to 11:30.
All in, you made the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. For extended. All right. Going up to the point for comments.
The public is left.
Yes, it's silent public.
Did we do public question? I don't think she was. Yeah, but I think he's kind of asking it here.
Oh, we did, that's right. Sorry. So, if there, we can always ask our question, but if, to the public, if anyone in the public that has comments about this application, please identify yourself. Speak now for the. All right.
Any other comment, any question?
So we stipulate to cut the conversation with HVAC. The next one we're getting to.
Oh, on the material?
Yeah, I mean, look, generally, I understand the limitations that HVAC can help us get a little nice to everything off.
Yeah, we're happy to make that as a condition and discuss the color and the material.
He used to have a constructive meeting.
But based on the review letter, there were originally 80,000 conditions.
Yeah, unless they skip numbers.
Yeah, based on John's letter. You know, the condition 85.
That's from the resolution.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mr. Warner wrote that.
So are you sure with Mr. Bureau?
So the,
No,
it seems a little bit pushing to get a vote higher. Compared to the 85. For this one.
Well, what you could do is just incorporate conditions into the approval and modify the ones that they've asked to have modified based on the testimony presented tonight. You roll it in, you don't lose anything. You're agreeing or disagreeing with the conditions that they're going to make them move on. You don't lose anything. It's simply that they can meet most. So I would re-adopt those conditions, modify the ones that need to be modified, and we can move on. Perhaps I will deliver the board, that would be my. Do you know which ones need to be modified? They need the relief that was granted. We're really tired at 85, I can't go through.
then I'm concerned about the lighting on top of the wall. You and the neighbors,
I'm concerned about the view from the neighbors.
That might take something more than just a yes or two.
Create a couple lights further off the property and reduce the light. We still need to provide lighting in the parking spaces.
No, I understand, but.
So the only way to do that is with poles, and we can't change the fact that there is a retaining wall, because the wall is needed. One portion of the site is 6 feet, the very back corner is where it does get up to 10 feet. Again, we'll pull those heights down. I can tell you that we'll do a 10-foot pole. We have to model it to see how much.
No, that's what I'm saying, so just to say, yes, we'll do it, or we'll look at it, is maybe a little bit too esoteric. You might want to see it.
I think they should show you what it looks like in the neighbor's property in any situation. We can tell you that pulling it 15 feet from the property line and reducing the height of it will have a significant impact, where you're not going to be staring up looking underneath the light pole. Now that it's 20 feet away from you and height reduced, you're eliminating that situation that we were talking about, of a pole on a property line 25 feet by pulling it away, which will alleviate the situation.
And you're pulling it away by eliminating those water quality systems.
Yes.
You're doing the pervious pavement.
Correct.
So that allows you to bring it into the island.
Yes, we probably shift those probably easily 15 feet away from that wall, so that's.
Now we can plant behind them, right? Because you don't have. And you're not.
No, that would be in an island that we would be able to pull those in, and we could probably put a couple, maybe tall evergreens behind it. But the area where the guardrail is between the curb and the wall, there's not a means for any other type of landscaping, but if those light poles are pulled up closer to the curb line, away from that wall, then we could put maybe 1 or 2 trees back there to kind of help with any type of direct line of sight issue.
The wall's 4 foot.
It starts at 6 foot and then it starts to get 10 feet as it gets.
So I shouldn't say wall, fence.
Fence is 4
Fence
foot.
on top of the wall.
4 foot.
So we-
Again, a 6-foot fence would be fine, but I don't know if that solves the issue either. If you have a light fixture with the shield on the back so that the light's not spilling at the back, it's going down and out. And by pulling the light fixture off of that property line, that will eliminate this concern of on the low side staring right up under your light.
Yeah, because on your aerial, your neighbors using your property right up to their property line.
Yeah, they have a driveway along that side, yeah.
We're gonna let the driveway.
We will not, since we have not. I can pull those like both off trees to.
Different. Remove trees, I mean, it's not heavily treated. But.
More family on it, they're using.
Yeah. I'm still a little, just in terms of completeness and comfort, I'm still concerned about the property line. That next to that drainage and that. Based on whatever is learned there and as was testified to, the connectivity opportunities to connect into the westerly drainage pipe versus the Grove Street exit. I mean,
It's changing the drainage flow to,
you're trying to,
all the way to proposed now, you're changing the flow to the east rather than.
yeah, and it is just draining it out, you know, it's just which direction you do it and where's your pipe, whatever, I just, to me, it's a little unsettling that there's some disagreement about the surveys.
Yeah, they are proposing a retaining wall that is
And
on top of or impacting an existing wall.
Essentially, it's gonna replace that existing wall that's now on his property. We need to get reconstructed in a manner that benefits both properties.
There is some grade
Yeah.
over the property.
I'm not challenging intent or, you know, goodwill, you know, good faith, I would say, but it's an unknown. You don't really know. Their survey your survey could be wrong. God forbid, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you've asked. but-
in discussions with our surveyor, we're confident our surveyor is right, but obviously we'll have to confirm that as, you know, we go through the process. Maybe a suggestion, and Mr. Simoff noticed also with the conditions of approval from preliminary, because there are some of those conditions that were like, probably just taken from review letters are not really applicable because the plan changed.
Yeah.
So if the board was so inclined, you know, instead of voting to take the action tonight, if they authorize the board attorney to draft a resolution with the conditions and allow us to work with Mr. Zabo, Mr. Bradley, and the board attorney to say, all right, that one's not applicable anymore. This is a real list. So the board can now see what all those conditions are. That would also give us time to continue to have the opportunity to hear back from Mr. Pigeon as to what survey the town has for 63 Bernards and try and figure out, you know, the survey issue and that answer.
It possibly also the competition with HVAC and any changes.
Yeah.
And any changes that you have based on that competition.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's better. I mean, I think you can sense our position there, so from a strong perspective. But it it needs to be, like you said, reconciled. The numbers should drop from eight.
So you guys agree?
Can we add to that we get some clarity from the fire department whether or not the bikes are going to be an issue? Because that's gonna play out not only in this development, but in the next two.
I'm sorry, I just had to call it out that.
Gonna play out in the next, right?
So.
But that's sort of up to us then, in a sense. They're not proposing a battery charging wheel. And the other one did. And
Well, then,
you
as
can
a
find
board,
that
we
out.
should take on that
Yes, we should.
small project
Think so.
and be able to advise you rather than asking you
To do it, anything for us. All right. I think they're collecting the aggregate set of points as a draft, and then he's saying work it out, work through it.
Then you wouldn't lose any time if you had a draft resolution.
Correct.
Is that okay? That's everyone's amenable to that.
Can you put it on the beginning of the next meeting?
30. Yeah, 30. Hopefully, okay, but not. Gonna be.
It's gonna take a little time with, there's holidays coming up.
So. Well,
I think and that kind of leads also to scheduling, so we have. We've noticed because recall Brook was the first one, I think, being complete, the first one we got a review letter on, so that was gonna be the first one, that was supposed to be tonight. And then it was requested to have 63 burners go first, so we understood that Brook was gonna be on November 30th, so we noticed for November 30th. That may or may not be the case, depending upon, I guess, another application of whether they get revised plans in on time. Mount Airy is scheduled for December 14th.
Application prior year.
No, I think,
No, not.
just Florida indicated.
Oh,
So they said they were gonna revise and come back on the 30th, and then we have another application on for that night as well.
But I think their revised plans need to be in by Monday.
Correct, so if they're not in by Monday, then they wouldn't make it for the 30th, unfortunately.
So and
They
anyway,
were gonna try and tweak where the building was, move it around.
At 114.
Yes.
Well,
The parking in the back.
try for the 30th, but I mean, if we, for whatever reason, can't get to it, you push it.
yeah, my only point is to note that there was that scheduling, so we'd like to at least try and keep the 30th for Brook. If the opening's available, we're gonna be coming back on the 14th, no matter what, from Mount Airy, so if, at either one of those meetings, it could be addressed.
The parent now is supposed to Brook on the 13th, carry it again.
I'm sorry, say it again. I understand that's what it says, but in prior discussion, it was our understanding was gonna be on for the 30th, that we were flip-flopping, so that's why we noticed for it.
So what I'm asking,
Brook is the
Brook is the 30th.
Brook we've noticed for the 30th.
I don't know.
It says,
This one says.
Right, it was moved to December after 114 Claremont was, because I didn't think we could do all three of those in one night. So after 114 Claremont was put on.
Well, yeah, but mine, 114, Mount Airy, I don't want to do it.
No, sorry.
yeah, Mount Airy's on
Is
the
that
14th.
Yeah, so that one.
So it's 114, and it's Brook, and this.
No,
What's the
yeah.
other? What's the third one? What was the other one?
McGowan
Application. Subdivision.
subdivision.
Just the 2 lots. Is that one with 2 lots? Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
complicated. They changed the zoning. We can't talk about it.
Okay.
You'll get my review. We can talk about how we make a recommendation to the council to change the zone line, right? Is that the same site?
Well, what if you allotted a certain amount of time to each application? You want to put 3 on it for that night. But then you may not finish.
Yeah,
May not finish all.
Right. That's,
What's your preference?
So
You get,
I think it's kind of 2 tracks we'll be discussing. So one, I would suggest, we've already noticed for Brook on November 30th, so we'll know Monday whether, or I guess Tuesday morning, whether or not this other application is gonna be proceeding or not. If it's proceeding and it doesn't look like it's gonna happen, we would just ask on the 30th, the board accept jurisdiction and carry it to the 14th, where you already had identified. And Mount Airy would be on for the 14th as well, to give professionals time to kind of go through it all and work out the survey, the resolution. This matter could be carried to the 14th as well. Now, it's gonna be the first thing we address.
So why don't we just carry this to the 14th and leave whatever's going,
And leave what we had noticed for the 30th and see what,
and yeah, 114 Claremont is on. Maybe done.
Well, I think
Otherwise,
it'll be all longer time to work through the 85, whatever.
Yeah, I think about a month from today is a good amount of time.
All right.
okay, so we'll continue this application to the 14th.
7:30, same time, same place.
great.
Further notice required. Do we need an extension?
If one's needed, you have to just send me the form, or I need to send a letter, that's fine.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Real executive, yep. Yep. Two things.
So are we,
We are taking a motion to go into executive. All in favor? Aye. We're in executive session. First agenda item.
Wait, hold on.